And now.
All right, everybody, welcome to night 2 of the Power Conference. We're fired up for tonight. We're really excited about the lineup tonight. We've got unbelievable speakers coming. Coach Blinn from Arizona State will start us off. We've got Louis Corrala from Georgia Tech. We've got Greg Adamson from the University of Tennessee. And then we've got 2 more to round out the night. We'll let that be a surprise if you don't already know. But I wanted to first off just talk about our sponsors and thank them. So Hawkin Dynamics, Powerlift, Catapult, Matrix, Sorinex, Alico, Therabody, Play, Momentous. We could not pull this off without their support. And so just wanted to say thank you. We'll be hearing from them throughout the night tonight as well. So if you did not catch the first night, don't worry, all these are recorded and we'll send those to you guys at the end of the conference on Thursday. But it was an unbelievable night. We heard from John Gordon. We heard from Gary Kramer. We heard from Ricky Ing with the Oakland Raiders. And we heard from Michelle Carter, who's an Olympic gold medalist. So unbelievable talks. Really encourage you guys, if you didn't catch that, to make sure you go back and catch it. But before we get started with our first speaker, I just want to kind of recap what we're all about in case any of you guys were not on last week. And it's really as simple as this. A good coach can change a game, but a great coach can change a life. We want to be life-changing coaches. We want to be able to help other coaches in our profession, other leaders in our profession really understand the intentionality, the relationship building, the execution of everything that they do, how that all ties into making a lifelong impact and changing a life. And that's what we want to do tonight with all of our speakers as they bring to you guys their stories. We want to make a difference. So, I'm Zach Woodfin. For any of you guys that are just joining the conference night 1, I'm one of the co-founders of Power Conference. This will be our 5th year doing the Power Conference. And I want to introduce our co-founder right now, Anthony Lamondo. It was really his dream to dream this up. And I came alongside him and just kind of helped him with some of the details. But I'm going to pass it to him real quick, allow him to tell you a little bit of the history and why this conference exists.
Hey, everybody. Anthony Lamondo here. 5 years ago in 2015, I was blessed to be a part of an organization of the Denver Broncos that won the Super Bowl in 2015-2016 year. And it was an amazing career achieving experience. But I was left with, at the end of it, I was kind of left with, is this it, right? Winning a Super Bowl as a strength coach of football is like your pinnacle right there, right? And I kind of was left with, is this it? Trying to get in touch with my why. And during that year, the things I remembered most wasn't necessarily the wins. It was the relationships that I had built and the mentoring that I had done with some of the players in our team. And I really got in touch with why I do this job and why we do this job as strength coaches. And so at the end of the year, I called Zach. I said, is there any strength coach conference out there, performance conference out there that it kind of talks about making an impact on athletes more than just in the weight room or on the field we know of. So we said, hey, let's do this. Let's start a conference that, just a little bit of performance concepts and a little bit of, how we can impact our players and really make a lasting impact on their life as well as for their athletic career. So that's kind of how the Power Conference was born. Zach was very humble at the beginning of saying, this was me. It's been a joint effort all the way through the 5 years. And, Zach keeps me on my game. We're both really excited for night 2 and really grateful for everyone who's joining us night 1 and night 2 and for all of those who are here. So thank you and look forward to this evening. Zach, back to you.
All right. Thanks so much, Coach Lamondo. Appreciate that. So it's important for us to really communicate why this exists. And, that's, if you've seen any of our social media, you've seen that's one of our our hashtag, our lines is what's your why, and why do you coach? Why do you lead? And that's what we're really all about. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce one of our speakers later on tonight. He will be introducing our first speaker of the night, but I'm going to lay it up to Coach Greg Adamson from the University of Tennessee. He'll speak later on tonight. He's going to do the intro for us on speaker one. Greg, go ahead and take it away.
I really appreciate that, Coach. I'm excited to introduce Coach Leanne Blinge. She's the Director of Olympic Sports Performance at Arizona State. More importantly, she's just a phenomenal human being, mentor. I've met a couple different young female strength coaches, and both times when they impress me, I ask them who their mentor is, and they without a doubt say Coach Leanne. So I'm really excited to intro to you guys to her. I'm excited to learn from her, and I'm incredibly grateful for her time and friendship. So without further ado, here's to one of the best in the profession.
Thanks, Greg, for that. I guess I got a lot of living up to do with that intro. So, for me, I'm proud to be called a mentor and to help, bring people up to the profession and, hope to continue to do it for a long time. So, extremely honored for you guys to ask me to be part of this. I think it's an unbelievable conference that you guys are doing, and I'm really excited to be here. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Let's see if I can get it up. Share. Here we go. Hang on. Share my screen. Our conference. Here we go. Now sharing. Let me go into... All right, should show me how to do slideshow. All right, here we go. So this, I want to talk a little bit about, my journey, a little snapshot into my journey, my why, my professional and personal and professional growth. I've been doing this for a long time, 25 years, kind of scary, although I only look like I'm 25. No, I've been doing this for quite a while. My journey that I've been a strength coach, an athlete, a competitive powerlifter at the world level, every single thing that I've done in my career, in my personal life, has made me who I am today, and who I want to be, and it's made an impact on who I am, who I want to become, and who I strive to be. And I think it's important to let those upcoming understand that it's not going to be easy, especially in our profession as strength conditioning coaches, especially as females, males, whatever. It's not an easy profession, but it's absolutely worth it. It's one of the best professions and best decisions I ever made to become a strength conditioning coach. So, all this is a snapshot in terms of where I've been. I'm not going to go through it. I will say this, one of my things up there, it says you may not always end up where you thought you were going, but you'll always end up where you were meant to be. And I will 100% agree with that. It's one of those things that in life you struggle sometimes saying, why me? Why me? Why am I where I'm at? Why am I going through all of this? But it's lessons learned through life. And I'll give you some stories, and Jeremy Boone talks quite a bit about power of story. And there's a lot of stories and a lot of things that I've gone through in my career and life that lead me to be and have led me to be who I am. So I will tell you, one of the biggest words that you will see and kind of figure out why I am the way I am, resilient. And resiliency is one of the biggest things I think that we miss sometimes. Our next generation, our youth, they don't know how to be resilient. They don't know how to be told no. They don't know how to understand how to deal with the word no. And it's something that I learned very young, is how to be resilient. And I think it's something that we need to teach our young athletes. I think it's something that we need to teach our young strength coaches. It's not always going to be easy. You have to have the ability to withstand and recover quickly from difficult conditions. And that's what resilience means. Resilient people, they're aware of their situations, their own emotions. And it's hard, when you're always told, okay, little Johnny, you can have this, you can have that. You don't make the club team, but I'll let you go, we'll just take you to another team. You don't teach your sons or daughters resiliency, how to bounce back, how to deal with adversity in your lives. So for me, Being being 47 years old, I've had to deal with being resilient in a lot of different situations. So I think that's, for me, one of the biggest things why I am and who I am, and then and now, in terms of who I am then and who I am now. So then and now, for us as strength coaches, we all get into this profession for various reasons: a former athlete, an injury, they love lifting weights, part of the family. I'm part of Joe Ken's coaching tree, and Joe Ken, AKA House, his son, Peter, is following his footsteps as being an up-and-coming strength coach. And I think he's going to do an unbelievable job at it. And so, for him, it's part of a family thing. For me, I was a former athlete. I was injured, and I decided, hey, I wanted to lift weights. I love to do it, and that's kind of what got me into it. It's not going to be easy. I will say that I have learned lessons in every situation that I have ever been in, and I will share some of those with you along the way. Good, bad, and indifferent. Some people call them failures. Some people call them successes, and I hate the word failure, but it is what it is. I like to use it, a failure, but it's more of a growth. You got to have that growth-minded mindset. The coach I am today resembles the coach I was 25 years ago. So for me, when I first started, I am way different then than I am now. Maybe you can say it's the times have changed. There's things that I've said to my athletes 10, 15 years ago that I couldn't dream of saying now, because I'd probably get in trouble, but I never meant it derogatory or demeaning. I meant it to bring the fire out in them. And I think sometimes we look at, you're being tough on them and you're being hard on them. And some coaches want to be, we got to make them mentally tougher, physically tougher. So I will say the coach that I was 25 years ago resembles the coach that I am now. Over time, your values, your ethics, your morals, and your principles don't ever change. They shouldn't change. Your values, your morals, your principles, your ethics, those are things that don't change. So in 25 years, I would say those things of mine haven't changed, but what evolves are your mindset, your programs, and your philosophy. Ron McKeefery says it best that, you want to be a principle-based strength coach. Philosophies can change, but principles don't. The baseline principles don't change. I will also say, you have to do you. You can't be somebody else. Even though I've worked for Joe Ken, even though I've had some great mentors along the way, and I think mentorship is huge, I'm never going to be him. You'll see some of the things in my personality that comes out that are like him, but other things you won't. You have to figure out who you are and let it be an extension of how you coach. I am hard. I expect a lot out of our athletes, but I will never ask my athletes to do something that I would never do myself. When I meet our athletes, 25 years ago, when I first got into this profession, I had to start out. I took up powerlifting and competing because back then there was very few females in the profession. You had Ray Ellsworth, you had Angie Brambley, you had Andrea Hootie, you had a small group of women, and we had to prove ourselves and step outside of our comfort zone and prove a little bit harder back then who we were and that we deserved to be. And we were coaches. We weren't just females in the profession. We were coaches. And I don't ever want to be viewed as just a female in the profession. I want to be viewed as someone who can practice what they preach, who demands respect and gets respect, and can have a great relationship with your student athletes and coaches. I started competing way long time ago because I needed to prove to myself that I was a good strength coach, that I could get under the bar, that I could bench 400 pounds and out bench some of the guys. I could out squat some of the guys. And my first job I ever had at Nevada Reno, I walked on a plane. We were at a bowl game, and I walked on a plane with 4 big ass trophies for a world championship, national championship. And guys, football guys were like, oh, wow, I guess she does know what she's talking about, and back then that's the way it was. Now, 25 years later, you go for a job, you look for a job, you look at, you say, hey, I'm a power lifter. I've competed at the professional level for 25 years. And then all coaches think is that you're going to make my softball player or my soccer player bench 400, and they're so narrow scoped. Like I don't want my kids to be like that. I'm a strength coach. I understand that coaching is coaching, lifting is lifting, and playing is playing. So it's been an adjustment over time, a huge adjustment over time, learning and trying to figure out dealing with coaches and working with coaches. This has turned me into and kind of given me an aspect of, what is my why? Why am I doing this? Why do I want to be a strength coach? Where do I want to go? My husband asks me all the time, like, why are you in this profession? You still work 80 hours a week. But I will tell you, this morning was the happiest I've been in a long time. I had 11 hockey guys that finally got cleared and came down into the weight room. And I had 3 guys that didn't know they got cleared. And I called them and I'm like, let's effing go. Like, it's go time. We're on. And it was the happiest it made me. And every time I get my soccer girls or my whatever sport I'm with, like, I'm happy to see those athletes, and you have to bring it every day with your athletes. My why is to make an everlasting impression and leave the profession better than I found it. There's so many things that I could tell you that I've been through in this career. So many good, bad, and different things. I want to leave it better than I found it. For me, I want to pave the way for future strength coaches. I have one of my GAs here, Jake. I coached him back when he was in high school at Franklin High School. And I have another Jake, 2 Jakes, Jake squared, who's doing an internship, a virtual internship with us. And to me, that's the proudest thing it's made me. And because of me, they wanted to be a strength coach. And it's not just about me, but it's to make that impact on an athlete is unbelievable. It's one of the best things in the world. For me, there's a lot of things that I went through in my career, and as just growing up, grew up in a small town, grew up, having to do things on your own, small family, and, mom raised us 3 kids. And, sometimes you had people around you that were great mentors, and sometimes you didn't. Sometimes you had to do things on your own. And for me, I want to be the person and leader that I needed when I was younger. And that's to me, and all these pictures that I have here, these are all kids that I have coached when I owned my business and worked with. They were all high school. They started with me when they were in 5th grade, and now they're off in college. Actually, some of them already graduated. So it's the happiest. And Nick, the kid on the bottom with the tire, that's me. We laugh. We have a good time. Kids work. I love my job. I can't tell you there's a day that I come to work that I feel like I come to work. That's a huge piece of my why. Last thing, 10 years down the road, if you saw a former athlete in a grocery store, would they come over? Would they give you a hug? Would they pretend not to see you and go down another aisle? I was on a flight back from Arizona to Massachusetts to speak at the National High School Strength and Conditioning Association, the Massachusetts chapter. And I saw an athlete on the plane that I haven't seen in 15 years. And I looked at him and I knew the face. I couldn't remember the name because it was 15 years earlier. And, he's like, Leanne? And I'm like, yep. And he's like, I can't thank you enough for the hills you made me run and the amount of times you made me puke. He's like, not that I ever want to make an athlete puke to make them better, but he's like, it made me such a harder working athlete, and it got me to where I wanted to be. And I have a million stories of those. And that's the best thing in the world for me. I don't have kids, but I view every single one of the kids that I've worked with as my kids. The power of connection. I just talked about it. Athletes, student people may not always remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. Goes back to the grocery store. If you made an athlete feel like shit, you can make an athlete feel, like, hey, I got to work harder. But if you are derogatory to them, demeaning to them, they're always going to remember that. Same with coaches. If you argue with your coaches, you argue with, no, it should be done my way. Hey, softball coach, gymnastics coach, water polo coach, this is how it should be done. Well, you got to find a middle ground. Okay. You have to find a middle ground. It applies to your athletes and your coaches. Okay. Being a great teacher or a coach, it goes beyond just teaching your athletes how to correctly perform an exercise. how to make them help them become a better person. When they step outside the weight room and step off the field for the last time, they may stay in athletics, they may not. You want to help them become better husbands, wives, people, sons, daughters. That's what it's about. The power of connection, connecting with those kids, communicating with those athletes, and being there, being present for those athletes. If you're thinking, athletes will be so quick to pick up if you're there and you're thinking about something else. There's not a day that I come in this weight room. There was actually one day I came into this weight room and I was in the worst mood ever from getting a bad phone call or a not great phone call. But I had to shut it off. I had to, say, I am shutting it off, and I'm walking in the weight room, and the weight room is, these are my athletes' time. It's not my time. I got to shut off. Whatever has happened to me, but I'm not taking up their time. Make the big time where you're at. I can tell you I was at Franklin High School, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. And people think they want to get, even when I started, I wanted to be at the, big time. I wanted to be at the professional level. I wanted to be that first NFL female strength coach. And as time goes on, your priorities change. I went to Franklin High School. I worked at a private sector. I have my own gym, my own training center. I went to Franklin High School. I worked with Holliston High School athletes. I had some of the best experiences in my life working with high school kids. And some people think, oh, it's just high school. High school, you can make an impact and influence kids in so many different ways, in so many positive ways. So don't just think that, oh, I'm at a high school level. High school level, I love high school strength coaches. High school strength coaches make my life way easier at the collegiate level. Way easier. I'll talk about this really quick. How do you define success? Success personally, professionally, you got to look at successes. For me, I talked about it. It's my athletes going on and doing great things. Professionally, sometimes we get caught up as a strength coach. Team wins. Oh, my athletes win. My teams win. I'm winning too. Is it PRs in the weight room? Is it your postseason journey or title? Is it just your staff moving on? Professionally, I can tell you over the years, professionally, I have changed on how I define success. It's that work-life balance. I used to pride myself on working 80, 90-hour work weeks and not blinking an eye. Now it's, okay, yeah, I'm coming home, Rich. I'm coming home for dinner. I'll fall asleep on the couch at 8 o'clock, but I'm still coming home for dinner. So defining success, defining your growth over time. Personal and professional growth. I talked about this. Every situation you encounter is a learning experience. But know that situation does not define you. It's how you react, how you learn from it, and how you grow from it, okay? I crossed out the word failure up there because failure, yes, while it exists, it's how you learn and how you grow from it, okay? It only becomes failure when you don't change. That's when it's failure, okay? Roadblocks are inevitable. You have to adapt the situation or you drive yourself crazy. I will tell you, when I was at Boston College way back, and my boss left and I was inherited. Okay. This happens all the time. You are in a situation, a new staff comes in, you are either inherited or you're fired. In a strength conditioning world, you have to deal with it. Okay. I dealt with it. I probably dealt with it in not a great way, but I dealt with it. But at the same time, I wasn't about to be disrespected. I was told that women should be working with women. I was told that your men's basketball is hoochie mama. I was told that you're not good enough. And you know what? I took that. I could have said, you know what? Put my tail between my legs and said, you know what? I quit the profession. You know what I did? I said, screw you. And I came here to work for House at Arizona State way back. So things happen for a reason. So you can't sit there and wallow in, oh, this happened to me. This is the way it is. I can't find a job. I can't do this. You have to figure out, you find a way. You find a way or it drives you crazy. At the end of the day, do what you love. Love what you do. If you don't, get out. Absolutely 100% get out. If you don't love it, get out. Student athletes, assistant coaches will never forget how they were treated, spoken to, or disciplined. I talked to you about it. You have to make sure you remember what you're saying because it can come back to bite you in the ass. It can come back to haunt you. It can come back to, be a great thing, but it also can come back to haunt you. If you made a mistake in the 90s, no one knew about it. Thanks to social media today, everyone knows about it. Everyone knows your business, okay? Make sure you post, and what you post, you want to post. Okay. Be a role model, be a leader, be the person, a coach, teacher that you needed when you were younger. Okay. The last thing I want to say is don't forget, yes, we do what we do to serve others, but don't forget to serve and take care of yourself. That is one of the biggest things that I've learned over this 25 years is that you need to take care of yourself. It doesn't matter, and your family, okay? You need to take care of yourself. The weight room will be here. Your job will be there, hopefully, if, unless coaching change happens. But you have to take care of yourself, because if you're not at your best version of yourself, you're not going to be the best version and be there for your student athletes. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to me. I appreciate it.
That was,
I will stop.
you got me, guys?
Yep.
All right. Well, that was exceptional. Thank you for sharing all those, all that years of experience and knowledge right there. Thank you. I want to urge all you people out there tuning in to please type in your questions. I've got one to start us off. What is one thing, one misstep or mistake you see younger strength coaches continuing to make as they come up in the ranks?
I think they're afraid to stay at a spot for a little while. I think they see a position come up and they've only been somewhere. Sometimes you got to establish roots. Even if it's a low-paying job, you have to establish some sense of credibility. And they have to remember, the grass isn't always greener. When you go for a job interview, they're going to tell you everything is great and peaches and cream and everything's flowers and puppy dogs and roses. And you're going to get there and go like, the hell did I just do? So I think sometimes you really have to look into where you're going, why you're going, but also make sure you're not burning bridges and establishing roots and establishing relationships with coaches, especially if you're at a smaller school. You can learn so much being at a small school and, working with a million different athletes. I talk to coaches all the time that say, I want to be a track strength conditioning coach. I want to be a hockey strength conditioning coach. The best thing that made me I shouldn't want to say great, but a good strength conditioning coach is that I worked with 8-year-olds for a while. And teaching 8-year-olds how to squat and keeping their attention span was like herding cats. Okay. And sometimes some of our athletes here, being 20 years old, are still like herding cats. But, learning how to deal with different personalities, different age groups, like it's not a bad thing. Like take a step, just stay where you're at.
I can totally relate. I wanted to be in football right when I started, but I wound up coaching soccer for 2 years in the Middle East. And I still look back and I learned so much in those years. I had never played a lick of soccer, and like to piggyback on what you said, you just never know whatever sport, even if it's not the end game that you want, what you can learn and learning from different athletes. One thing you said at the end there that really hit home with me, and it continues to hit home with me now. It's something I think I struggle with, and a lot of us do, is like taking care of ourselves before we can help others, right? It's like that, put the mask on yourself before you put it on your kids, What's one thing for you in the past, if you're willing to open up here, that has been a hard thing for you to manage, as well as being a strength coach, taking care of yourself? Because, we work long hours in this field. It's we're about health, but there's so many unhealthy things that we tend to do in our field with hours, but go ahead.
I think for me, it was always the worry of what if I don't? What if I don't stay? What if I don't show up at 4:00 in the morning before the director of strength conditioning shows up at 4:30? What if I don't? Am I going to be looked at or looked upon as any less of a strength coach that if I don't show up, if I don't stay here after hours? I tell my staff now, I'm like, get out of here. If you don't need to be here, don't be here. I'm not counting your hours. You get your job done. And I think so many coaches are like, well, I did it back in the day. And even in the beginning, I was like, well, I did it back in the day, so you should have to do it too. I think if I could go back and change that, I would say, you know what, just when you're done with your work, and just go home and be present where you're at. And I know my husband gets mad at me because sometimes I'll bring home work. I've been learning to try to keep work at work and not bring it home. Early in my career, it was one of those things, I felt like I had to push harder because I was a female. And back then, Meg Stone was the only female. She was like my role model. I was at NAU in 95 as a grad assistant, and she was down at I had the school down south, because I can't say it because I'm here at ASU. So she was the director of strength conditioning down at U of A. And she was just an unbelievable person, and that's who I wanted to be. So I'm like, hey, I got to work twice as hard and prove that I could do just as good. I'm just as good of a coach. Just it doesn't matter whether I'm female or not.
Excellent. Here's a question from Karen, one of our attendees. Do you ever work out with your athletes? This question comes up a lot, I think, and people always wonder, have you ever, or do you ever work out with your athletes? I
don't. I am a strength coach first. So for me, if I want to do something, I'm here to coach them, not to get my swole on. I lift afterwards. I lift at a different time. Now, if you have an athlete that wants to come in and do some extra work, I've done, Friday arm farm with some of our guys, just, as a Friday, thing, but as a traditional, like, nope, we are, I'm here to coach you. I'm here to get you better. I get better later. So definitely not, unless it's an extra.
Okay. Yep. I see that a lot. Okay, good. This question's from Sam. What advice would you give female strength coaches who are starting out in the field? Speak to them and speak to their hearts right now.
I would say, if someone tells you no, just keep pushing and keep grinding. Like I would say, just keep going. If you're told no at one place, then look for another place. Get as much experience as you possibly can. Dive in, jump in, do internships, reach out to other strength coaches, connect. The power of connection is huge. Connecting with other strength coaches, male or female. If you're just starting out, go visit, go on road trips. And I know it's hard right now with the, times and COVID and everything. We can't have interns or people visiting and all that, but try to make phone calls. There's so many, so many podcasts and so many Zoom calls now that are going on. You can make connections with coaches just from that. And I've gotten emails. I've gotten so many emails from different people. Just, hey, I want to connect. Can we talk? And absolutely. And if you don't get a response from somebody, they weren't worth it anyway. So right. That's one of the biggest changes I've seen in the field too since I've been involved. Is like there used to be a stay in your foxhole, kind of like don't share ideas type of mentality at times. Like, oh, what are they doing over there? And I feel like things are much more connected now. And so, like you said, there's so many avenues for strength coaches to connect with other strength coaches, and that's kind of why we're here at the Power Conference right now. Who's your hero? Idea. No one has an original idea. Everything we steal everything from everybody, and everything gets recycled. It's 100% recycled, and it's just renamed as something else. So it's I've seen it.
Right. All right. Who is your hero?
My hero. Oh my gosh. I guess from a standpoint of Tammy Lopes is one of my heroes. She's a competitive powerlifter. When I moved from Nevada, or moved from NAU from grad school up to Nevada, Reno, and took my first job, her and her husband Bob took me under their wing, and I was starting out in powerlifting, and I wanted to be this. I had no confidence. I had no, and I know some people say you shouldn't use the word confident and be more confident, but I will tell you, I was very, very shy, very quiet. I'm not the person I am today. And I will say it's because of Tammy and Bob and what they did for me, from a lifting career and just from a personal career and a professional, and just that relationship. And I will say it's probably both of them, Tammy and Bob, 100%.
Tammy and Bob. Excellent. Well, I just wanted to take the time to thank you. Incredible today to hear from you. If there was, someone who we're looking to that is what the Power Conference is about, it's you. And hearing in your voice, in your stories, that most important thing to you is not the bench press or the squat weight. It's the athlete, and it's connecting with them and impacting their lives. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing your heart with us.
It was awesome. Thank you, guys.
You got it. Zach, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Coach Lamondo. Coach Blinn, thank you so much. That was amazing. I really connected with what you said. So 10 years down the road, when you see an athlete, one of your athletes, are they going to come to you and give you a hug, or are they going to move away from you? And that's what we call at the Power Conference coaching for the fifth quarter. That fifth quarter is the life after sport, the life after they leave you. Have you prepared them in a way that they're gonna be difference makers in life, and that they'll always reconnect with you when they get married, when they have children, when they see you randomly on a plane 15 years later, because it's really important to know us as coaches, we have the power to do both. We have the power to change a life, but we also, unfortunately, have the power to ruin a life. We just got to be so intentional with our words, with our actions, and how we make people feel. Like you said, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. So we really got to make those people that we coach feel like $1 million. We got to hold them accountable and discipline, of course, but let's make sure everybody on here, we're coaching, we're leading. So 10 years, 15 years down the road, when they see us, it's like that person right there had an enormous impact. I'm going to go run and say thank you. So Coach, thank you so much again. I'm gonna run to a commercial here with us. We're gonna check out one of our sponsors' commercials, and then I'll come back on and introduce the next speaker. Let's check this out.
Is designing and providing premium solutions.
It's now not just about a goal, it's about being that performance brand. And it's about being the best performance brand in the world. That's what we want to get to.
It's not just walking in and having a conversation about the surface and the floor. It's walking in and having a conversation about the entire room.
Clay's never been driven around providing a commodity product or a unit or selling, just an item. It's been about delivering a really highly engineered solution.
We are the base, and then just to build up or build underneath of that is a natural progression.
We no longer just want to be the best flooring company. We want to be the standard for performance.
You have to be the global leader in research, development, and innovation. And that's what our daily mission is here at Clay.
We've always been innovating solutions that help promote performance and safety and sustainability.
Awesome. Well, for you guys that were on the presentation last Thursday night, we ran these videos and we didn't have sound. I told you we would work on it and get it right, and we did. So thanks again to Play for being one of our sponsors. Again, we could not do it without all of our sponsors supporting us. So thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. I'm fired up to introduce him. He is the director of strength and conditioning for Georgia Tech football. Coach Lou Carella. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. We've coached against each other. We've shared stories. You guys might have followed him on social media. He does a lot of great stuff on social media just to really get you to think about what you're saying. Again, the actions. And the things that you say are so important. So Coach Lou, man, we're blessed to have you, fired up to have you. You take it away, man, and share with us tonight.
All right. You see me good, Coach?
Yes, sir. I can see you.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, make sure that works. Okay, 1 second. Right. Can you see it, guys?
Perfect. You're good.
Okay. And you can hear me good, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Zach, thanks so much for having me, man. This is awesome. I've watched this this clinic from afar for years now, and you and Anthony and Ben for putting this on the way you're putting it on in such a unique setting. You're still pulling it off, and I'm just so thankful you chose me to speak. And I'm going to give you everything I have, and hopefully, leave an impression on someone. So my topic's called Being the Difference, and I think there's a lot that goes into that, and I'm really excited to talk about it. I bring up this coaching experience not to go over it, because it doesn't matter. And that's my point. Like, you think the room that you take over, and I've had an opportunity now a lot to take over a room, and you're the only new guy on staff. Well, this all of a sudden means nothing to them. It might give you credibility as soon as you walk in the door, but this isn't going to get you their respect. So I'm showing you this. These are a lot of stops. These are a lot of places. Some of them are very premier spots, but what it does is absolutely nothing if you don't show the kids respect and get them excited about what's to come with you. So it doesn't matter what you used to do. It doesn't matter your accolades, nothing. It matters if you're there for them and they feel that. So I just wanted to bring that up. Now, this is a question I always ask myself to just try to keep myself in check. What does it feel like to be coached by you? Like if it's not fair and understanding and consistent and positive, I don't want my son coached by you. Like that's the biggest thing for me, is trying to be a guy that I would want my son or daughter to be coached by, and that I'm sending them off to be under their supervision. And that's who I try to live like. And if I don't, that's the question I always come back to. What did the room feel like today when I was in charge? Is it a positive environment? Is it a challenging environment? And is it safe? And is it someone that I would trust my son with? And I think with those questions in mind, you're setting yourself up to make a difference in someone's life, because a lot of people need to ask that question more, in my opinion. So when you have an opportunity to take over a program, and I've had an opportunity 4 different times in 5 years, as a head strength coach at 4 different schools. And I just think the biggest thing you cannot do is expect them to respect you right away. That's not going to happen. So what do? Well, you talk about what is exciting for them. You talk about why you're going to earn their respect. You talk about why you're going to interview the whole team before you even coach them, hopefully. You're not talking about letting them walk in and have a line out the door to test body fat the first time you meet them. No, you got to make it exciting. You got to come with it. You got to be creative. You got to have some kind of outside the box thinking to set the tone in the most positive way for those guys looking at you. And then from there you can go. But if you swing and miss at first, you're going to miss big, and it's going to send a lasting impression. I think everywhere I've been, North Texas, Louisiana Lafayette, Buffalo, and Georgia Tech now, the first workout, no matter where I was the same. Meet me in the locker room at 6 a.m. You have no idea what we're doing, and just be ready for anything. At that point, they're guessing. So they just got to be ready. And, just fun, exciting, incentive-based training for them to think about. And that's really been a positive for me in my career so far. The interview, like I mentioned, I don't think there's anything more important to make a difference in a kid's life than talking to him and asking him questions about his own life or her life. Like, how many times do people ask you questions about your life anymore? It's the phone, it's scrolling social media, it's not talking. I know that. So the goal is, from the first month I get the job, it's kind of hard at first to get it all in at once with your schedule at first, but I got 27 questions I ask the players about their life, and I type as they talk. And sometimes the simplest question brings the deepest answer. They've never opened up like that before. They've never had a chance because no one asks. So I think that creates a bond instantly. The movement after is what you need early on as a coach in a program to create respect. And just show them that you're there for them. Show them that you're really trying to understand who they are and what they've been through and everything they've gone through to even be in that seat they're sitting in. Because if you don't know that stuff, you can't read body language. You can't create insight. You don't make a difference. So I have, these interview questions I just came up with on my own. They're nothing special. They're nothing crazy. It's just pick the ones you want and ask them. It doesn't have to be 27. It can be 10. It can be 3. But the point is they have to feel that you love them and you're there for them. This is something that I've done everywhere I've been. You know, I admit my flaws to every team I'm with. You know, I don't think they can look at a guy that thinks he's perfect. I wouldn't, you know, as a player, I would not follow that guy. So I try to be that vulnerable. You know, I let them know every mistake I've ever made as a teenager, when I was 20, till the time I'm a parent right now. And what it does is it opens them up. So if you want the team to be close that you're with, you got to open up. You got to let the floodgates open for yourself, and then they will open up. But it won't work the other way. So explain your regrets, man. Explain your flaws. And that's gone a long way with me. The messages every day, you know, every team run, every lift. How do I do it? Well, I think of a quote that hits at the time of year we're in right now. I think of a story that I've gone through. I think of a regret, like I told you. I think of my potential, stuff that I'm even working on personally. Anything goes with these messages at the end of a lift, but it's just trying to be real with your players and telling them stuff about perspective and how they got 60 years after football to be a man. And just all this stuff, guys, after the lifts and runs, I would not take for granted. You got them all on a knee. They're listening to you. They're tired, but they're hearing you. And before they walk out of that door, I'm going to give them something. And over time, they're going to realize you're really trying to help them. So, you know, a lot of kids over time, as I've gone on, moved on from jobs, the one thing they remember the most are those messages. And I guess that's the one positive, too, about social media is I can keep giving them to them from afar. So I wouldn't miss out on that, though. That's been huge. I think staff inclusion, you know, I think when sometimes you get a leadership position, you forget about developing leaders. You know, you're worried about yourself. So this is my staff, not to go into too much detail, but I give them the floor a lot. You know, I let them create their own messages. They have the floor at the end of the lifts. They talk. You know, they bring their own perspective on things. They bring their own insight on stuff that they went through. So our kids can not just hear me, they hear everyone. And I think that's been a huge addition to just bringing us close as a program. And that's something I also highly recommend if you have a chance to do that. Theme lifts. All right. So, for example, my point is this with theme lifts. All right. Don't try to be saying you're here to make a difference and you have like a 10-week program planned out and every Monday and Wednesday and Friday is the same thing, and expect these kids to come in and say, man, I am so excited for Monday. Guys, they never know what I'm doing with them. They might know they lift total body, but they don't know what we're going to do. They have no idea. And I love that because it reflects the game they're playing. You can watch all the film you want on football and all your opponents. You don't know what they're going to run on play one. Sure, you might recognize a formation, but you don't know what's going to happen. You just have to be ready, and you got to attack. So all these lifts have been huge additions for our program, and I really enjoy doing them. So I'll go over one real quick. You know, we have a tap out lift. It's called the annual tap out lift, where I put, just say you and me versus each other in 14 different events. And those events could be as simple as a bar hang, where you're just hanging from a bar. Well, if you quit, I win. That's the only way it works in 14 different events. So that's been one of my favorites because, you know, I know people would shy away from like the tap out name, but my big thing is I truly believe conflict brings you closer and competitiveness brings the best out of you. So if I'm going to bed at night knowing that I have to go against you tomorrow in 14 events, and I know all the events that are coming, all I'm thinking about the night before is how do I beat you? How do I win 8 out of 14 so I win the whole thing? And then afterwards, when we are grinding it out together, when we are pushing each other to beat each other the whole day, guess what the first thing we do when we see each other after the lift? We hug each other. We earned a lot more respect for each other. That thing brings so much out of you, your soul, from another person, that you earn so much respect for him, and he feels the same about you. Nothing can bring you closer than that, and I'm sold on it. So that's one of my favorites, and obviously I could go on and on. This is a whole presentation about this, but Be creative, keep your kids guessing and make it exciting. This is just a way to create buy-in for you, as a coach, you got to have fun with them. So the first picture on the left, hey man, try to look really sad, don't flex, and this is after a winter break. All right, on the right, hey, this is after our summer program 6 months later, and we're going to label that with a funny label. So this is after an hour and a half pump. There you go. Create buy-in, have fun with them. Make them feel great before the season starts. This is my advice for like interns, GAs, and assistants, and anyone that's trying to make it to a point where they want to be one day. Work like you're on a one-day contract. Too many people ask, hey, what do you recommend? I recommend you bring the same attitude every day. I recommend you beat me to work. I recommend you stay late. I mean, all this stuff is so simple, but it's also so simple not to do. So I think a lot of people choose not to do it. And I think as an intern, this is my guy, Jim Brophy. He was my intern at Buffalo. He was my intern at Georgia Tech. And now I got him another internship at Notre Dame with Matt Balis. The kid doesn't have very much muscle. He's very short. He doesn't look like he played football. But he's the greatest kid ever. He works so hard. He does any task you give him with relentless effort, with a smile. And it's not enough for him. He wants more. He's genuine. He cares what your day is. He wants to know. He asks questions. He's curious. So he gets my reference. So, you want a genuine reference, be a genuine guy and work like you're on a one-day contract. What's the point of view? So, for example, if the janitor walks in and hands you a card to follow, you're going to get stronger. You're going to get faster. Well, the point of view is not just to get him stronger and not just to get him faster. It has to be the exact opposite of why you coach. Sure, you're a strength coach, I'm sure, because of the point of the weight room and you believe in it, I get it. But guys, this platform is huge. So what's the difference of you? What's the difference of the impact that you've made on this kid's life forever? I don't care if it's a year, 4 years, 3 years you're with them. It's for life, and that's how they have to feel. And I heard you talking about it at the end of the last presentation, but the memory of you is what you're working on every day. Bring joy to their life. Create positive memories. These are pictures of our night lift where we just had the most fun I can explain. Offense versus defense. Dress up in costumes. Play ridiculous music. And work hard. So just what's the memory of you? The retreat. This is the most valuable thing that I've done as a coach with players. I've taken 17 players that were the leaders on our football team to a lake house with our head coach and our recruiting guy and a couple other coaches. But the point is, we had a dialogue to follow to help kids open up and get our team closer and find out issues that we were dealing with. So we had the question, if you really knew me, you'd know this. But they're not going to say anything, like I said, if you don't go first. So you tell them everything you possibly can about yourself, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. But don't shy away from it because they will. So you had tears flying, you had all this stuff. And then at the end, we had their parents write them a secret letter that they didn't know about. And we took a walk the next morning and handed it to them. They all went off on their own and just had tears everywhere. Reading this letter, they had no idea it was written from the parents of how proud they were and how much they just believe in their senior season. All this stuff, guys, look, if I'm sharing secrets, I'm not helping kids. And this is a platform right now to help kids in your building. Like, if this idea is mine and now it's yours, great, go for it, man. Make a difference in kids' lives, because that's what happened with this retreat. The logo mentality, for example, like, if you're at a clinic and you judge people with the shirt they're wearing, so, you start out as an intern in South Florida and then you're the head strength coach at Georgia Tech. You look, all this stuff is great, but if you're sitting at a table with Defiance College, Alabama, Clemson, and Tennessee, well, naturally, you're not going to look at the guy from Defiance College just because he's way down in Division III. Well, even on staffs, I've noticed people do that with interns or GAs. They don't let them be heard. They're not worried about their thoughts. Well, in my staff meetings, the most important and most valuable stuff that's come up has sometimes been from the lowest man on the totem pole. So what can you do for me mentality is everyone's valuable. You have to treat these people like they're gold. because one day they are going to be head strength coaches because of you. And that's how you got to look at it. Include these people on your staff. Let them have a voice, because you never know what's inside. And that's my man Jimmy again in our night lift. The players absolutely loved him. Your platform is to be irreplaceable. I mean, that's the goal. Your goal is not to be at your job where you're at forever. I know I'm not going to be here forever. I haven't been anywhere I've been forever. That's not the goal. It never has been. The goal is to be irreplaceable when you leave in their heart. You can't be replaced. All this stuff you're trying to put into these kids, everything you're doing, what you're bringing every day consistently, that can't be matched. That has to be your goal. So like, you know, all these kids say, oh, the GOAT, you're the GOAT. Be the GOAT where you're at. That's no excuse. You have to be the GOAT where you're at. That's it. That's your goal. Because you've been given the keys to the hearts and souls of these players you're talking to. So don't waste it, man. Make a difference. Some players mention this to me sometimes, you know, when we have really challenging workouts. You know, what's with all the hard workouts, coach? You know, what's the point in that? Well, from firsthand experience, I feel like one day you're not going to have a job. One day you're going to be told you're not good enough. One day your faith's going to be tested and you're going to question your whole career choice. One day you're going to lose a loved one. Like, life is really hard, man, and not predictable and very not fair at times. So that's why we do the hard workouts. Be prepared for anything. And yeah, it might not seem fair at the time, but you got to get through it. And that's the way it is, man. You got to challenge your kids in a safe and positive environment, but make sure they're being pushed too, so they're ready for whatever. I think the word truth is like a dodgeball. And what do I mean? The last thing you want to get hit with is the truth. You know, people don't want to hear it about themselves. People don't want to get coached. Can you accept honest criticism? But can you also give honest criticism, even to your staff? Just say a staff member's not holding up his own, and he walks by it, and you walk by it every day and don't say anything. Guess what? You're dodging the truth too. So every time that ball comes, you dodge it, you dodge it. You got to level with people. Don't be so nice all the time. If something's wrong, address it. Sometimes you got to be hurtful to be helpful. And that's the truth. Because the truth is a dodgeball and people try to avoid it way too much. And you would get much further if you just addressed it quicker. 4 quarters of thanks. What do I mean? These are my mentors. That's Matt Bayless on the left at Notre Dame. He's the head strength coach there. Aaron Wellman was just the head strength coach at the New York Giants. Now he's at Indiana. Ron McKeefre's the head strength coach at Fresno State. All these guys I've worked for. All these guys taught me so much. So 4 quarters of thanks, you go 3 months. That's a quarter of a year. 3 months. If you're not calling, texting, writing, sending a gift to those people that helped you get to where you were, you're wrong. That's flawed thinking. All right? So all 3 of those guys, they know where my heart is, and they know I wouldn't be anywhere without them. Don't think you just arrived. Don't think you're just here because you did it. They helped me. They taught me, and they know that 4 times a year. What didn't you get? I think way too many people think about the countless blessings. Let me reword that. People get mad when they don't get what they want after praying, but they don't think of all the countless blessings they have without asking. And this guy, Joe Reynolds, is a player I coached. Me and him worked out after he graduated for 8 months, did the most ridiculous workouts ever, had so much fun, learned so much about ourselves by just pushing our limit. And he's the one who taught me, think about all the countless blessings you have without asking, because sometimes I would complain about things. And he's the guy who kept me in check. So I hope you have someone like that in your life. And that brings me to complaining in the hamster wheel. What does it do? Nothing. It doesn't get you anywhere. You go to the same thing every time. And be careful who you complain to the most, because I guarantee they're complaining about you. The word love, all right? A lot of people overuse this word. They think it's this throwaway thing. Hey, love you, man. Hey, love you. This word to me is the most powerful word there is. If you don't go through failure, loyalty issues, hard work, without getting what you want right away, sacrifice, faith being tested, fights, all this stuff. You don't go through that. You don't love it if you can't bounce back from all those words. That's the truth. So don't say you love something if you're going to quit the second adversity hits. Don't say that. Those are the words. That's what they are. They're attached to the word love. If you have been battle tested through all those words, then you love it. That's my opinion. And that's my wife. And we've been battle tested a lot through this profession, through doubt, through fear, through not knowing what's next. all this stuff. But if I didn't love what I did, I would have quit years ago. And if I didn't love my wife, we wouldn't have made it 3.5 years long distance in college. That's just what I'm saying. So don't waste that word. Toughness and leadership. You can't be in the back of hard things and try to lead. Like if the only time you want to talk is when the bullets aren't flying, you're not a leader. The ceiling of your leadership has a direct correlation of the ceiling of your toughness. That's it. That's how leadership works. Advice, keep your head down until you're tough. And until then, just follow. You're not allowed to give up on your players. And what do I mean by that? That's my high school coach and that's my college coach. The point is, that's way after I played. That's way after I'm in high school on the left. And that's way after, that's 2 years ago when I was with my college coach. He came to our MAC championship game. All right, all this stuff matters. How invested are you? When graduation happens, that's when the relationship really just begins. You want to be uncommon? Start shutting down negative conversations and start complimenting others behind their back. That's how you become uncommon in this world right now. You want to really be uncommon. People say that all the time. I hear it all the time. Stop talking behind people's back. Stop bashing them when they're not there. And then when they walk through, you're going to shake their hand and say good job to them. Like, two-face is going to kill you in this field, any field. So the more you can separate yourself from negative talk, the better, because it's going to get you one day. The job that really gets remembered. Don't forget, coaches, that this is the job that matters. I hope quarantine taught you that. You know, I got to see my daughter learn how to ride a bike. I got to see my other daughter learn to walk. I got to see my son film my workouts on this playground every day to send to the team, which was a great bonding experience. All this stuff I'll never forget because of the last 4 months. So just remember, man, the job you do at work, that's great. But the job that gets remembered is the one at home. You got to share how you're not a perfect husband or wife. You know, I don't know who's listening, but if they don't, like, okay, so I go home, right? I give the team a detailed speech about being detailed. And I go home and get ripped for not being detailed. So I'll share that with the team because, you know, I come home some nights and I think I had a long day. You know, I'm tired. Well, what I have to do is say, how can I help over and over and over again in my mind? And if I don't do that, I'll feel bad for myself because of all the work I did today. When my wife has been busting her butt all day to struggle with 3 kids and raising them. So don't shut off when you get home and share the example you are as a husband or wife as with your players. The impact you'll never see is so huge. I mean, how are you going to see if they get the job one day because they're so self-driven? How are you going to see if they get that starting job after you got fired 3 years ago? You're not going to see that. But the impact you leave in these kids shouldn't have to have it be seen. It's so big in their heart. You poured so much into their heart that these kids are set. They have it inside now. Job interviews, husbands, fathers, mothers, confident, all this stuff. That's stuff that you have a responsibility to put in their heart. And I think people just need to focus on making the person a better person instead of a better player all the time. I think you need to be an example through your journey. And I'm almost done, guys. All right. I got like 2 more slides, I think. But yeah, so this picture on the right, 2018 National Strength Coach of the Year. You know, I know Zach was in 2014. But, you know, I look at this award and I'm so proud because, not because I won the award, because of how much I had to go through to get that award. I didn't even know that award was possible at first. But then 9 moves later, fired twice as a head strength coach. And then the following year, I got that award. I'm in a storage shed 1 year before that, crying my eyes out, not knowing if I made the right choice with this career. The impact it has on your kids and family, you can't even explain it. Crying in the pouring snow, moving half my house into a storage unit, not knowing what I'm doing with my life. And then I kept believing that I'm doing this for the right reasons. I kept believing that I've always had the right motive. I just need the right opportunity. And that year, I guess, it presented itself, and I kept believing even when others stopped believing in me, and it came through. And there's no other way to explain it but faith. That's it. That's all I had. And when you love what you do, keep going. Because let me tell you something, hard work pays off, but no one tells you when. And that's the truth. Guys, I hope that I gave you something there. That's my email address. That's both my Twitter accounts that I run. And God bless. And Zach, I can't thank you enough. Anthony and Ben, thank you guys so much for having me. Be the difference.
Awesome, Coach, man. Thank you so much. Excellent job, man. So many just great nuggets there. So many takeaways as well. You guys go ahead and start typing in your questions. We'll do some Q&A for a little bit here with Coach. Coach, one thing I wanted to go ahead and ask is about the tap out lift. So sounds awesome. If you're willing to share those exercises, I would love to hear. You mentioned the pull-up hold. What are some of the other ones?
Yeah, we've done like an incline treadmill run on 10 miles an hour. Who gets off first? We've done wall sit with 90 pounds on your lap. Who caves in first? Push-ups on command, 135 bench press on command, 100-pound dumbbell hold facing each other. Weight vest, 300-yard shuttle. Lunge till you don't want to lunge anymore. Push a sled until someone quits. ISO lunge hold where your back knee's 1 inch off the ground in a lunge position. You just hold that until someone caves. Tug of war. That's pretty much it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love that. You know, I heard I don't know who it was that told me, but they were talking about the Navy SEALs and when they're going through their training and when they ring the bell, and they say when you quit, you actually have only tapped into maybe 65 to 70% of what you're really capable of. And those guys that quit and ring the bell, they're only focused and thinking about when's it going to be over? You know, when is this going to be over? And the guys that make it are focused on, man, I'm just going to get to the next event. I'm going to get to the next event. I'm going to get to the next event. And so I think it's a great way to train this in our athletes in a safe way, you know, to
right.
You know what, you have so much more than you ever realized if you just learn how to get into it. So awesome. So, somebody typed in, yeah, it was David Goggins that said that. I appreciate that. Coach, who's your hero?
My dad. You know, he went to a job that he didn't like every day, but it was the hardest, working in a crane yard 12 hours a day, and he was a crane mechanic. I just thought going to work with him one day opened my eyes to what his everyday life is. But he came home with such a positive attitude, and he was at every sporting event. Like, that's not what he did at all. He never dreaded going back for us. So I just thought he dealt with a lot of stuff in that crane yard that you would never know about because he was just that tough. And he's the one who always told me hard work pays off. No one tells you when. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we got a question from Joey, and this goes back to earlier in your talk. You talked about every time you arrive at a new school, it's been very consistent. Could you just elaborate on that experience, like the first thing you do, the first talk, the first workout, and how you create that buy-in right off the bat?
Well, yeah, you got to excite them, right? So what do? You make them scream really loud, right? You just scream on 3. Here we go. Stand up. Let's clap. You know, here we go. Let's clap. Let's continuously clap. Let's make it uncomfortable how long we're clapping, you know, so they're all smiling eventually. And then you just tell them who you are. You know, you tell them what you expect. You tell them what you expect out of yourself and what they can expect. You make them so excited about the program that you're about to bring to them. You know, it's not about you. It's about what they're going to do. So what are they training for? What kind of competitions are we going to do? How's it going to be set up? You know, is it going to change in the summer? Is it going to change in the spring? All this stuff, you open the door to their mind, and then you don't let them know what you're going to do the first workout. You just say, meet me in the locker room. And you know, at Georgia Tech, I ran in the locker room at 6 a.m. They were all waiting for me. I started a mosh pit, and eventually they figured out I was starting a mosh pit, so they started pushing me back. And then I ran to the indoor. We ran to the indoor. We all got there. You know, 14 jumping jacks on command. We want to play 14 games, all this stuff. Chance, and then prowler push, overs D. You know, kids are screaming. We're doing up-down competitions, one-on-one in a big pit circle. We're doing, you know, you name it, but it's safe. It's fun. It's exciting. Position seat rolls in a circle. You know, call out the DBs, whatever. But that's what I did everywhere I've been, and it's been so much fun every time, and I'll remember it forever.
You know, I read a book called The Power of Moments, and certain moments are, like you said, they're remembered forever. And I think that's so important for us as coaches and as leaders to really think intentionally about how am I going to create a moment that is never forgotten. And a perfect time to do that is a first impression. You know, you create moments the first time you meet somebody, the first time you're introduced to a team. And those are things that people will never forget. So I think that's huge. I wanted to ask you your thoughts. So the truth is like a dodgeball statement. I'm a big believer in really telling it like it is too, even if it's hard. What would be some tips for our viewers to maybe try, if they're not naturally good at telling people, hey, you're not doing this the way that it should be done, or you know, just voicing something that's hard. Not everybody's good at confrontation, but it's needed. Like you said, you have to know how to address it, and you have to know how to accept it. So what are some things that may help people that are not too good at that?
I think, like, player wise, I always try to tell the guys, I'm like, hey, in your own way, please tell guys if they're not wearing the right shoes. Please tell guys if their earrings should be out. Please tell guys if, you know, don't walk by stuff. You're just as bad, you know? So that's what I try to tell our players, that way it works. You know, I'm not telling them how to do it. I'm not telling them when. I'm telling them to do it. And then for us as a staff, you know, if I write something wrong on the workout and it's pretty obvious, but I don't catch it, my assistants let me know. You know, they're basically being honest with me. And when they easily could say, well, nothing, you know, and that would hurt our team. So they know how to be honest with me. And then if, just for example, like if what you had in your mind when you explained it in your staff meeting of how you want a certain thing coached and it's not getting done, you can't just watch that. You have to go over there and correct the guy that didn't listen or didn't hear it right. And a lot of times I blame myself for not explaining it right. But that's how I kind of do it. You know, hey, maybe I didn't say it clear, but it's all good. We just got to make sure that his heel stays flat on that exercise, and then he pushes, you know, all that stuff. But if it's a body language thing, pull him to the side. Don't call him out in front of everyone. You know, it's if a staff member's having bad body language, you got to see that. You got to understand the people you're with, and then hear them out. You know, ask the question first, but also at the end, polish it up with your performance has to pick up. Like, it can't be like that. I understand how much you're going through, if he is, but it's got to pick up. And you just got to say, you have to say that. So.
No doubt. That's great. You know, the thing that I think is so important and that I know you have is to do that. On one end, you have to have humility, you know, so the best coaches, they have humility. They can accept criticism without excuses or without, you know, pointing the finger and say, you know what, you're right. You know, I made a mistake on that. I'm going to get it right. And then on the other side, like you said, I think the key in confronting somebody is, one, doing it in private, you know, so not calling them out in front of the team, not calling them out in front of other people. Say, hey, you know what, I need to talk to you real quick in private. But having the courage to say, hey, look, this happened. This is not how it needed to happen. Your performance has to improve. But then to keep that person motivated to get better, to always end it with something that they may be doing well. You know, hey, I know you're trying, but you have to, you know, prepare a little bit more. You have to execute this because, you know, at this level, just trying, it may not be good enough. Like, execution is key. So that's what, you know, some of my mentors told me is hey, do it in private and have the humility to receive it as well. So we're gonna go ahead and move to our next coach. Thank you so much, man. You did an unbelievable job, and I know all of our attendees got a great, you know, just a great lesson from your talk. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you guys.
All right, everyone. We're gonna go to our next commercial from one of our sponsors, and then I'll come back on, talk a little bit about how we're giving back from the Power Conference, and then we'll introduce our next speaker. So let's check this out. All right. So again, big thanks to Eleiko for sponsoring Power Conference. We want to go ahead and talk about our other sponsors as well. Here, while we have an opportunity, Hawken Dynamics, Powerlift, Catapult, Matrix, Sorinex, Eleiko, Therabody Play, and Momentous. Thanks to those sponsors. I said this last week, but I want to say it again this week. The majority of everything that we have financial wise here at the Power Conference, we're going to give back this year. You know, our country is going through unprecedented times with COVID and everything else that's going on here. We want to be known as a conference and a group of coaches, a group of leaders that makes a difference and doesn't just talk about, oh, I wish this and I wish that, but really says, you know what, we're going to do something about it. And so we're going to give back a large portion of our proceeds. Two of the nonprofits that we're going to give back to is the Equal Justice Initiative and then the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. So these are two organizations that are just fighting for equality and fighting for basic human rights for every single person in this country. And we want to be able to give back to that and make a difference in that area. Again, if there's causes that our attendees are very, very passionate about, we want to hear those. Type those in the chat or the Q&A, and Anthony, myself, Goody, some of the folks on the ground floor will definitely consider, you know, giving back and making a difference in those areas. So wanted to make sure you guys understood what that $10 was going for. What all these great sponsors that financially gave to, what is that going for? So it's all of us. Okay, giving back. It's not just, you know, not just us that founded Power Conference. It's you, it's me, it's our sponsors. We're all going to do this together and make a difference. So I'm going to allow Anthony to introduce our next speaker, and take it away, Anthony.
Thanks, Zach. I am honored, privileged, and excited that you guys get to hear from our next speaker. Greg Adamson is up next. Greg has been a supporter of the Power Conference since the beginning. He is the current Associate Director of Olympic Sports at the University of Tennessee. He's been there for 8 years. He works for swimming, diving, soccer, and golf. And forgive me if I forget any other teams there. Greg is the type of guy that, you know, if there's that silence during a presentation where someone's asking for questions, Greg is the brave soul that goes, I'll answer a question, or, you know, he'll be the first in the foxhole with you to help you out. When he came his first year for the Power Conference, he didn't come there as attendee. He came there as basically one of us doing the putting on the conference. He was shoulder to shoulder with Zach and I. What can I do to help? And you know, in Leanne's presentation where she said, you know, what's an athlete going to do when they see you in 15 years? They're going to give you a hug. I guarantee every athlete that has worked with Greg will give him a hug and be excited to see him. And he's impacted so many lives, and I'm really excited for him to be here with us tonight. So, Greg, take it away.
Hey, Coach, really appreciate that. First and foremost, thank you to Zach. Thank you to both the coaches that went before me. Phenomenal presentations. Just honored to be here. Honored to spend a little bit of time with everybody that's attending. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and kind of work through this presentation. Make sure you guys can see it. Bring it down a little bit. All right. So if you guys look real quick, here's my contact information. Please reach out. My cell phone's right there. Go ahead, shoot me a text or call. Take a screenshot of this if you need it. So tonight I'm going to get deep with you guys. We're going to talk about power. We're going to talk about the importance of giving a ship, right? It's one of the things that I think is important. My philosophy is give a ship: relationships, ownership, hardship, leadership, and championships. And so I'm going to kind of share a story. It's one of those things that isn't your typical strength and conditioning story. It kind of took a pivot a couple years ago. I had the opportunity and was blessed to join the Air National Guard, join the 134th Air Refueling Wing here at McGee-Tyson. It's right there in Knoxville. It's an award-winning base, 15 of the last 16 years with what it does, which is get KC-135s ready to refuel any fighter pilot or any plane that may need refueling. So right here, I've got a picture of my beautiful family. They're the ones that ultimately made the biggest sacrifice. One of the things I want to leave you guys with is there's going to be someone in attendance tonight that I hope feels encouraged about where maybe they are in the field. You know, I think so often we get into the field and we feel like we got to get the next job. We got to be the next director. We got to move on to the next school. We got to make more money. But I think you've heard both coaches ahead talk about, more importantly, take care of yourself. Make sure you say thank you. Make sure you honor the people that came before you. Make sure that your family understands your why and they're willing to go with you on the journey. So to get to where we're at, I put this email. You guys can read it. It's a little wordy, but I'm going to kind of share with you. It took 9 months. You know, I've had 4 major knee surgeries to get the medical waivers approved. It was one of the things that I met with our director. I think he's the best in the country, true mentor. Big shout out to Dan Worth, but also my sport coaches, right? They completely understood it and they're unbelievable to work with as well. But it's not every day your strength coach or performance coach comes up to you and says, hey, you know, I'm probably going to be gone, right? And I knew that I'd be doing basic training. I'd be doing it at 33 years old. I'm 34 now. We'll talk about what I learned there. You know, so it means leaving your athletes, right? So to some top 25, top 10 type programs, that's something they need to get their head wrapped around. My athletes, they need to understand that Coach Greg is going to go be Airman Greg and what that's going to look like. And then most importantly, right, my family is going to make the ultimate sacrifice. My wife is going to be the one that is just there with my kids. You know, I'm not going to be able to communicate with them at times. I'm not going to be able to call them. You know, I've got a 6-year-old named Caleb and a 4-year-old named Olivia. The 2 biggest blessings in my life outside of my wife. And so our faith is going to be tested. My faith is going to grow. You know, these are all things that you got to take into consideration, right? But the stars aligned in the sense that everything worked out and I was blessed to go ahead and move on. So right here's the give a ship. And so what I want to talk about is when I went to basic training at 33, here I am. I've spent over 10 years coaching. I've been at Tennessee since 2013. I've worked with 23 Division I programs, right? And we all have that recruiting bio, the bio that maybe makes us sound more important than we need to sound, right? It's about making an impact, and we all know it's about influence. It's not about the logo or necessarily where you've been or what's gone on. You know, when I got to basic training, I'm Airman Adamson, right? And I'm not even an airman initially, right? I'm trainee. right? So every time you report, my reporting statement is Training Adamson reports as ordered, right? And so what was unique for me is to have to take a step back and basically learn to be a teammate again. And so I want to share a couple stories as coaches. I think it's something that I forgot along the way, and I think it's really easy to forget. And so been in basic training, obviously you've got 2 MTIs, and I kind of want to walk you guys through the process so you can kind of start to wrap your head around it. So at 33, there was 3 guys over 30 in our flight. A flight is about 52 guys on average. I was blessed to be around some older men, but at the same time, I grew being around a lot of the 18 to 22-year-olds. I'm enlisted, not an officer, and so I'm not at officer training, and so having a college degree doesn't matter. Now, they found out I had a master's degree and put me in charge of academics, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But when we got there, everybody gets assigned a job. My job, okay, was to be in charge of laundry. I was the laundry chief. It's not a glorious job. It's making sure everybody's uniforms and PT gear gets washed, and it's not as easy as it seems. And anybody that's ever served and been through any type of basic training knows there's really not a great job to have, but there's a reason for everything. And one of our MTIs, if you've seen Full Metal Jacket, he was right off of that old school and prepared you in his own manner. But we couldn't get the laundry done in time. And I want to take a second and pause and ask you, think about the last time you truly failed. What was it and what were you doing, right? We were complete failures at getting the laundry done on time. We couldn't get it out. And it drove me absolutely insane as a coach and as someone that was in a position of leadership at the university. You know, it's not very often that complete failures happen, right? With basic things. It would be like an ATC not having water. It would be like me as a performance coach not preparing our athletes to go lift correctly. It was just complete failure. And I had 3 guys under me, and 2 of them did not get along. All they did was fight. I almost had to break them up from a fist fight. If they do that, their career is over, okay? And so I sat there and I went to our MTI, and you got to report in a certain way, and I went through all the different process, and I basically asked them at the time, could I fire them and get a new laundry crew and move them to, I don't know, the latrine, which is cleaning, you know, our restrooms. And he said no. And he got on me a little bit, you know, and I went back, and, you know, at this point I'm about 2 weeks in, haven't been able to talk to my kids, you know, and you start thinking, what am I doing? Did I really want to serve our country the way I thought I did? And you ask yourself that. And I realized that what I was doing was not being a very good teammate. I had forgot the most important part of when I talk to athletes and recruits and coaches about is giving a shit. I forgot about a relationship, right? And making sure that their relationships were in order. And then as a teammate, making sure I was doing what they needed to and helping them in ways to get what I needed to get done. And so my first challenge with this talk is find somewhere where you got to go be a teammate again. I'm not saying you got to go join the National Guard. I'm not saying that you need to go do something crazy. But whether it's maybe joining a jiu-jitsu gym, whether it's going and playing some softball with some friends, find something, though, that you've got to go be a teammate again. I think as coaches, it's easy for us to forget what we're asking them to do as leaders and tell people. I love what Coach Correll talked about with the dodgeball and tell them the truth, but it's really hard for 18 to 22-year-olds to do that with their own teammates. It's easier said than done, you know, and when you haven't been a teammate in a while, we forget, you know, the butterflies you feel to confront somebody with the truth. And then what that might look like when they don't want to hear it, and there might be an irrational action to follow, right? And so we eventually got better at our laundry. I would say we got to be about average. We never necessarily maybe got to the level that I would have liked to as laundry chief. But that's my first story. All right. So I was gone for 8 weeks from my family. I got 3 phone calls. I got to talk to my son twice, my daughter once, which was during my son's, graduation from preschool. And it was pretty cool to talk to my daughter, especially because my wife had written me and told me she was probably struggling the most. Right. So this leads to talk about relationships. I'm going to talk about ownership. You know, when it comes to doing things like taking care of your wall locker and making your bed, you know, it's one of those things that from a financial standpoint, you know, I wasn't there for the money. I make more than the people probably yelling at me. You know, I was really there to serve our country and grow. and show my kids what it means to be uncomfortable, you know, and what it means to be in such a great place in America. But from an ownership standpoint, you know, if you come into our weight room, I've been doing it for so long, it's going to be aligned and set up the correct way. My wall locker, I struggled. I completely failed my first wall locker inspection, right? And my lack of ownership wasn't there, and it needed to be better, whether it had to do with the way the hangers worked, the way the zipper went, you know. And so I think my next challenge to you guys is, when it comes to attention to detail, get out there and go learn something new within the next year that forces you to learn new attention to detail. That way you can relate better back to your athletes that you lead what ownership really looks like. It's easy to talk about ownership with something maybe you do every single day and you take for granted how long it took you to learn that skill to be that consistent with it. And so that's ownership, right? Make sure you take care of your wall locker. Make sure your bed, make sure the corners look good. Make sure you ask people to help you. The next ship was hardship, right? It was very hard. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that by any means it was not Navy SEAL. I am no paratrooper. I'm no special operator. I'm an FSS. My job on base involves, you know, it's fitness testing for the base. I switched FSCs when I got back. I just got back from technical training. The other aspect is culinary and search and rescue. But hardship, right? It was hard being away from my family. It was hard marching. I do not like to march. I am not really good with drill. I didn't want to wear a knee sleeve or anything like that. And so it was definitely hard. And so it had been a while since I had really faced hardship. So I talk about my athletes, you got to face hard things. You got to be uncomfortable. So my next challenge is go do something hard. You know, I don't know what that looks like in your life, and I don't know what that involves, but go put yourself in an uncomfortable situation that you need to overcome. And then you're going to need help to overcome. And I think that's the key piece. You're going to need assistance to accomplish that mission. So for me, you know, if it was making sure the bed was made, well, we got to get the laundry done, and then we got to make sure that the day room looks good. And these are all little things maybe you can't relate to, but you could take it back to certain aspects. You needed help to get through that hardship, right? And that's where we really grow, you know. And so as coaches, sometimes we forget to ask for help. I think Coach Leanne did a great job talking about you need to take care of yourself, and we need to put our own oxygen mask on. And then sometimes we got to take it a step further and ask for help. If we're struggling, if something's not making sense, if we feel like, you know, this isn't going good, we can't be afraid to ask for help. And that's truly can be hard. So that's hardship. After that, we can talk about leadership, right? What does leadership look like? And can you keep your presence and your cool and stay calm as a leader? I think that's something that it's easy to say, but needs to be tested to keep it moving, right? You need to consistently refine that. If there's not stress with your leadership, then I'm going to say that you're not necessarily progressing, right? We all know that it's through the difficult times that we learn to lead more efficiently and with more empathy and in a way that truly helps us grow. And so I think from a leadership perspective, where I grew was we had a young man that really struggled to pass the academic portion. I was our academic monitor. I was in charge of making sure that everybody studied for their test, you know, and he just couldn't get it, you know. And I remember sitting there one Sunday, we spent about 12 hours, and Sunday's the only day you get to yourself. And it had been a long time, you know. Initially, I was frustrated because he didn't listen and pay attention the way he should have when we were in class. He didn't take notes. And so I let my own frustration impact me as a leader in the sense that I didn't make sure he was doing what he needed to do every single day so he was prepared at the end. You know, he ended up passing the test, and he's going to make a wonderful airman. But I do think that as a leader, we need to put ourselves in situations where that patience is tested to see, do we really possess the empathy and sincerity that we say we have, right? And when we do those things, now we can talk about championships. All right, so that's the initial story about what it means to really give a ship. I think that what you need to make sure is there's a mission and there's a goal, and then there's people to help you accomplish that mission. I'm gonna move on a little bit. Here's just a little summary on relationships. If you want me, I can send this to you guys. I don't want to I don't want to over information you, so I'm going to move a little quick, but I think one of the most important things about relationship is trust, right? You know, I ask my athletes all the time, I ask airmen all the time, do you love Chipotle or do you trust Chipotle, right? They love Chipotle. I love Chipotle. I don't trust them. I've seen what's happened to some Chipotles. People get sick. I still love it, but I don't trust it, right? I trust my wife. So be careful about how you use words. Words have power and words matter. So when you're building a relationship, build it around trust. Make sure there's mutual respect and welcome diversity, right? Not just of people, but also opinions, right? And ideas. Make sure that you open yourself up to what someone is saying, but more importantly, why they say it. Ownership. As a coach, you need to explain the why. I don't want to hear that I said so. That isn't a good explanation, and it doesn't create ownership. You need to make sure that there's constructive feedback, and you need to listen. Hardship. That's basically when, as a human, our mental, physical, social, and spiritual are all going to be tested. And as athletes or as airmen, as fathers, as wives, as husbands, as daughters, sons, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to come across something where those different blocks are going to be tested. And when you're tested either mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, you need to make sure that you've put in place, because you were a great teammate, you've put in place the type of people to really help you. You know, I Coach Woodfin, he put this together, but, you know, I thanked him the other day for helping pack my parachute, right? And based off that first nice presentation, but, you know, this profession's had some ups and downs for myself, and he was there when the time was hard. So make sure you're practicing resiliency skills and putting yourself in situations to practice this. Leadership. I think that as every coach would tell you, you know, we all want to talk about leadership. I don't want you to talk about it. I want you to live it, right? The Power Conference one year was not talk about it, but be about it. I think as a leader, you got to put yourself second and operate in a way that allows others to feel at ease, feel understood, and you're going to do what's best for them. You're going to fail, but you got to stay calm. When everyone else is out of gas, you got to inject more fuel. When everybody else doesn't know what to do, you need to lead by example. That's part of being a leader. That's part of being a teammate. More importantly, that's just part of what it takes to be a good human. And that is essential if you want to really excel, not just within this profession, but with impact. Talk about championships, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent, you're going to be judged. And you got to ask yourself, did you produce people that were mission ready? And that's what a true champion is someone that's ready to go anyone, anywhere, anytime, AAA bar none, right? It's a saying that we use with my athletes. We live it, we compete, you know, it doesn't matter what's going to happen. And it's the same thing for me when I get the opportunity to go serve within the military. Are people better off when they leave being around you than when they arrived? That's a question that you got to consistently ponder and ask yourself. And I think it's one that, to me, if you can't answer yes, then you need to find someone to help you get there. Did they grow? Did they grow under your leadership? It's yes or no, same thing. If it's not a yes, it's not the end of the world, but reach out. Reach out to someone you trust and someone you love and ask them, how do I help people grow? It's okay to reach out and ask that we talked about it, that's hardship. And the people you serve become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, and more likely to be servant leaders themselves. I think that oftentimes, if we didn't accomplish some of these things that lead to better communicators, and that's something that I think anybody that presents right now on Zoom will talk about, but this generation, to sit here and say they're entitled or they don't know how to communicate, it's a fallacy, right? These coaches that are on here do such a great job, and I'm learning from them on how they communicate, because it's interesting to listen to how they go about their words, how they slow down their speech. I thought John Gordon did a phenomenal job the other night, but you got to ask yourself, through your communication and through your leadership and through your service, did the person that you were with grow? Are they healthier? Are they wiser? Are they freer? The most important, the most effective teams are where everyone's invested in the ships, and that way everyone that feels a part of winning, right? And this past year, from a strength coach perspective, our women's team won their first ever SEC championship. And, I think we would have had a great competition at NCAA. I got to throw that out, just the competitive side of me. But it was pretty cool just to see so many people jump in the pool, from your sports psychologist to your massage therapist to your dietitian, when you have great culture and a great leaders in place, everyone's going to feel as if they were a part of it because they are. I'm going to leave you guys kind of with this right here. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. I think that one of the big things that we need to think about is, what does it really look like when we talk about the vast and endless sea? Life happens and life comes at you fast. If we're going to really make an impact, we have to be on the lookout, and we have to live in a way that helps those around us yearn for what's to come. We must always have hope and hope for the better. And it doesn't matter what's going on or how bad it is. It's that hope and that yearning for what's to come and what's on the horizon that will help us really grow and help others see their true potential.
Greg, outstanding. Man, it was unbelievable listening to you here the last 20 minutes. I'm excited to hear everyone's questions for you. Thank you for sharing your heart with us. I got a question to ask you first. How old were you when you decided to serve?
So 33.
33, okay.
Yeah.
What's your advice for anyone who out there is looking to make a huge life decision that to potentially to people from the outside or to their family and friends may seem like, whoa, what are you doing, right? But they know in their heart, they're getting on the court. They're not being in the stands for their life, right? They're going after what they want, not what everyone else wants for them. What's one piece of advice you can give to somebody who's on the fence about or right there at the edge wanting to make that decision?
Hey, great question. I think first pray, right? Make sure that, obviously I believe in Jesus, but make sure you've got something to pray to, right? That you can kind of get that discernment. Second, take your time, right? I feel like you don't need to necessarily rush major decisions. And then obviously I'm married, so talk to your wife or husband, right? If you're married, make sure you communicate. But know that when you make big decisions, there's going to be some things that there were struggles, right? Being away from the athletes was really hard on me. I'd be sitting there trying to be a better airman, trying to learn something about survival. And I'm wondering, if one of our best athletes, I'm like, I hope her hankling looks good today. And I can't even see it. And I can't talk to my coaches. And I didn't get a chance to really talk about this, but I had to learn to trust my staff and athletes because I was gone. So it was really cool to see my younger coaches knock it out, right, and carry on the program. I gave them full autonomy to change anything they needed to change based on what they saw, because we all know that's what makes us good coaches is those day-to-day changes, right? But I think it's one of those things that it's funny when you make that type of decision, the ripple effect really carries on. And I tell people our men's swim program, our last two captains, one just graduated Ranger School not too long ago as an officer, and the other's there right now enlisted, getting ready to graduate, it hits me really hard to know that those men are serving our country, and to sit down and have lunch with them or breakfast with them and go over a 6-week running plan to get them ready for basic training and then Ranger School. But to know that we'll serve together at some point, we could be deployed together at some point. And so, but with those big decisions, getting back to what you said, make them, right? I talked to a young coach the other day and told him, don't be afraid to switch out of strength and conditioning. And they looked at me like I was crazy. But that he's a really skillful coach. But if there's something that he can go do and it's a different profession and it fits better for him and his family and where they're at right now, he needs to know and understand that it's okay to do that, right? The end all be all, it's so much bigger than winning, right? You talked about it, 2016, you won the Super Bowl and there was still a little hole there, right? And that's what life is about, is why is that hole? And if you can answer that question, you're going to find peace. And peace is the ultimate gift in this journey.
Yep. Excellent. Question for you here from Kennedy Hill. What made you decide to enlist? And then once you did, how was that process in managing strength conditioning and serving?
You know, I mean, what made me decide was obviously I grew up, my dad was a Marine, and just, I believe in this country, right? I believe in freedom. I believe everybody has the right to freedom, right? Everybody has the right to happiness and the pursuit of it. I believe in equality. So, you know, I think that I just couldn't get rid of that question, and 35 is kind of the end cutoff. So I figured with my knees, 33 was better than 35, right? I almost did it before I went to Tennessee, and I was told, you know, you really can't do that at one point. But, you know, about 6 years later, I was able to kind of answer that question. What's the balance look like? It's difficult. You know, there's highs and lows. You know, one of the highs is having my kids out to graduation, you know, watching my son hold his heart and understand what that means, right? Getting to know these 18 to 22-year-olds, not as Coach Greg, but Airman Adamson, you know, and they would let me know when I was being coach and they didn't like it. They liked Airman Adamson, right? So learning to handle that. I just got back from some technical training, and, you know, it was a lot of fun being there. And when you start getting in these, when you leave for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and I was at Fort Lee, when you're gone, you know, the fun of it is man, I get to just train again. I'm not worried about teaching. I'm not worried about leading. I get to train, you know, so I get pretty jacked. I get in great shape. I get excited, and I get to be coached up, which the old part of me loves. The difficulty is knowing my wife's doing it all by herself, right? And you can't parent over the phone. You can't parent over FaceTime. So that's tough, right? So that's that balance. Or, you know, knowing my athletes they know that Greg can't talk till 9 o'clock tonight or maybe 5 a.m., right? And so that day, they got to wait a day to ask a question that maybe I normally would have been able to hop on the phone with them right away, right? So, but the way you handle that is know that there's no true perfect balance, and you have fun with it, right? And more importantly, it's helped me I'm better at instructing what's important with my athletes and get rid of what's not.
There you go. I mean, talk about the lessons you learned from making that choice. Like you said, acting, right? Like, don't think about it, act, and making the choice to serve like you did. And talk about the things that you were able to take back with you to your athletes, man. Incredible. And to your life in general, right? One thing that I want to ask you along those lines is, I'm on the road here, and I've been listening to Atomic Habits. If anybody hasn't read it or seen it, it's incredible. But one thing that I wanted to ask you about that came to mind in relation to that book a little bit is, you know, one thing I'm always in awe of is, you know, people who serve, right? The habits that are formed. You talked about making your bed, waking up and doing those things, right? The processes. What's some of the advice that, you know, obviously we know repetition, what are some things that you took away there about helping that you bring your athletes about creating those habits that, you know, have a lasting impact on their life and their performance?
I mean, I think making the bed, right? You know, you've heard the Navy SEAL did a great job when he talked about it. Atomic Habits talks about creating that habit, but making a bed. You know, when COVID hit and we sent all our athletes home, the first thing we talked about was trying to find a routine, right? And it starts with making your bed. And I know it seems simple, and it's kind of, you know, it's kind of like jumping rope in the strength conditioning world, right? Like, we all know the jump rope's great. We all know it's essential. We know everybody should do it. And somehow it loses its luster over time, right? It's not as cool. It's the same thing with making your bed, right? So I think making your bed. Now, I don't do hospital corners. You know, I don't have a clipboard. I'm not out measuring it, right? But making your bed is huge. And I think the next thing is, you know, when you're at basic training or even technical training, until you're considered, you're non-prior until you've completed technical training, you have to go everywhere with a wingman. And the whole thing is taken care of to the wingman. It's the wingman policy. But I think that the other habit is consistently asking people, are you okay? Checking up on them, right? That became a habit because you couldn't go anywhere without someone else. You know, even if you wanted to go, you know, you had to go to church on Sunday, you had to make sure someone went to church with you, right? If you had to go to the doctor and they didn't have an appointment, you still had to go with them and sit there while they did their appointment. And so I do think the wingman policy is another habit that as coaches, you know, sometimes we get caught up in working so hard, we forget to ask the coach that has the office to the left or right of us, hey man, you okay? What's going on? And ask them just one thing about their day, right? So I think that wingman policy was another habit that really stuck with me, is just doing a better job of checking up on the people that I get to be around.
Being a wingman. Excellent. Well, Greg, we have 1 more minute. I want to ask you one more question here, and it's a short question. And then you talked about the power of word, right? The power of your words, what you choose to speak, right, becomes a reality. Leave our attendees with one word that you'd like them to take away from your presentation, from what you shared today.
I would say relationships. Relationships. You know, at the end of the day, it's the first ship for a reason, right? You can't do the rest if you don't have it. And I think that starts everywhere around you. You know, relationships matter, and this is a relationship business. I don't care what anybody will ever tell me, but we all know they don't know. We all know about the fact that if you don't have a great relationship with that young man or woman that you're with, the rest won't matter. And more importantly, the impact won't last. And that impact needs to last, or you didn't get it done.
Greg, thank you so much. And speaking of that word relationship, I'm grateful to have built a relationship with you because of the Power Conference. And really excited that you got a chance to share today and let people hear your heart, your story. And I know people were impacted big time today. So thank you so much for sharing your time and your thoughts with us.
Thank you, brother. Really appreciate it. Love you guys.
All right, Zach.
All right, Coach Lamando, appreciate that. Greg, man, great job. Thank you so much for sharing. And, you know, like Anthony said, man, something that's always been so vivid to me is, you know, the first few Power Conferences that we had when there was only 20 or 30 coaches in the room there in Denver. You were there to serve, and you weren't there just to sit and spectate. You came in and how can I help? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? So, man, it's just been so vivid in my memory, and something that, you know, I try to emulate from something that I learned from you is when I go places, not to be a spectator, but go and say, hey man, how can I serve you? I'm here to help you. And man, I appreciate that and appreciate your time. So great job.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Enjoy your family there at the beach.
Will do.
We'll talk to you soon. All right, guys, we're gonna go into a commercial, another one of our sponsors, and then we'll get back for our next speaker. Here we go. Awesome. So hopefully you guys saw Chris DeSanto there, who is the rep for Momentous. I've used their products, unbelievable, clean products, really, really quality stuff. So again, all of our sponsors, thank you. Some have the videos, some don't, but just wanted to say thank you to all the guys that make this happen. So introduce our next speaker, Coach Anthony Blevins with the New York Football Giants, is going to be sharing with us real quick just a little bit about Coach Blevins. He and I attended the same university, University of Alabama, Birmingham, both played football for the Blazers. Coach has had an unbelievable coaching career. He's coached for a long time in the NFL. He's coached in the college ranks. We've been really good friends for a long time, but so thankful with him coming on to share with just the schedule of the NFL, being on Zoom meetings all day. So Coach, thanks for taking some time to share with us tonight, man. I'm excited to hear you, and I know everybody else is. So take it away, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Zach, man. Thank you for that introduction, man. I just want to say thank you for doing this conference, you and Anthony. This has been amazing. You know, from last Thursday to tonight, it's just been awesome, man. So I just want to say thank you for being the person that you are and being a friend. You know, I know a lot of you are probably looking at the brochure and looking at me and saying, these two different pictures, you know, but I promise you I'm the same guy. You know, after being quarantined for a couple of months, you kind of figure out some things about yourself. You know, one of the things I figured out about myself was that I'm really excited about and happy about, considering I'll turn 44 next week, is that I can still grow a head full of hair. So I'm really, really grateful for that, you know. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And there we go. I hope everybody sees my screen. But basically, I want to talk about embracing the journey. You know, there's a lot of things that go along, and a lot of times we see the now, but we don't know the how. You know, a lot of us, we look to, you know, certain people, maybe it's somebody in our profession, maybe it's a position that we hope to attain, but we got to be willing to embrace the journey. You know, we can't expect the same blessing that somebody else got if we're not willing to go on the journey, you know. You know, so this is my gift to everybody here at the stream, at the Power Conference. Give you a piece of cake. You know, I know we got a lot of strength coaches, a lot of fitness experts on the call, you know, are probably losing it right now. You know, cake, he's talking about cake, you know, you know, like it's going to take 62,352 steps to walk all that cake off, you know. And then you got people on the other side like, I hope this guy can hurry up so I can get a piece of cake. So that's kind of me, you know. But that piece of cake didn't just show up. You know, it didn't just hop on a plate. It had to be made. In order for it to be made, you had to have a recipe, you know, and the recipe is it details some things out. It tells you what you need, you know. In order to make some cake, you gotta have some ingredients, all right? You gotta have some flour, you gotta have some butter, you gotta have, if it's gonna be strawberry cake, it's gotta have some strawberries in it, it's gotta have some sugar. Then you gotta take it, then you gotta mix it up. You gotta put it all in a bowl, kind of mix it up, and then put it in the oven. You gotta let it bake for about an hour at about 425 degrees. And then when it comes out, you got to test it to see if it's done. You got to put some toothpicks in it to see if it's done. All right. But so after all of that, that's when you have a cake. But you don't have a recipe and you don't have ingredients, you don't have a cake. All right. Now your screen's blacked out. There's nothing wrong with the screens. All right. But what I want you to understand that the cake is the vision. All right. The cake is what it's supposed to look like. I used to work with this one coach, and he used to have this saying, in my mind's eye, you know, and what that was saying was he knew what it was supposed to look like. You know, at the end of the day, we can do all this stuff, but I want it to look like this. I know this is what it's supposed to look like. And then you have to have the recipe. The recipe is the plan. See, the recipe kind of details it out. You know, it's going to tell you what you need and how much of it you need. You know, well, you need, you know, a cup of flour, you know, 3/4 cup of sugar. It kind of gives you the whole plan, kind of details it out. And then the ingredients are the tools. So on this journey, you're gonna need some tools. You know, on our journey, you're gonna need some patience. You're gonna need some perseverance. You're gonna need some thick skin to make it on this journey. But what I want you to understand is, if you want to eat the cake, you gotta have a recipe. You gotta have the ingredients. If you want to realize the vision, you gotta be able to figure out the how. You got to have a plan, and you got to figure out the how. So you see a picture of some braces. I'm going to tell you a couple stories from my lens, you know, some things that have affected me throughout my life. And then I'm going to go back, you know, so we can just talk and look kind of face to face, if you will, you know. But when I was born with an obstacle that was just laid at my feet, you know, right at the onset of life. You know, I really didn't understand it at the time. I was too young, you know. But simply put, the doctor told my parents that, you know, I probably never walk without the help of corrective braces. You know, so, you know, I don't know all the details of the conversation, but I can imagine, you know, probably going something like this. You know, my mom and dad probably sitting in the waiting room. You know, they probably had an appointment at 9, probably didn't get called back till 11, and probably didn't see the doctor till about 11:30. We all kind of know how that goes, being in the waiting room. But you know, I can see the doctor kind of walking in, and my mom and dad sitting there, and the doctor walks in and says, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Blevins, I know you're excited about your newborn son. You know, that's a good looking young fella you got there, but I know it's this news I'm about to tell you, that's what makes it extremely hard. It makes it really, really hard to tell you this. But as a medical doctor, and it's my medical opinion that he'll never walk without the help of corrective braces. So I can kind of picture my mom, you know, sitting there, her mouth dropping open a little bit, tears starting to swell up in her eyes. you know, I can kind of see my dad kind of reaching over and kind of hugging her, pulling her tight, you know, kind of reassuring her that it'll be all right. But at the same time, you know, he's got this feeling in his heart, in the pit of his stomach, you know, thinking that his son will never have a normal life, never have, you know, be able to go in the yard and play catch, you know, never go to the playground and be able to, you know, just play on the playground equipment, you know. So as you can see, you know, the tone was set for my life right at the beginning, but it wasn't set for woe is me, you know, why me? It wasn't set for that. You know, it was set for me to overcome. It was set to overachieve. You know, I think obstacles are placed at your feet, placed in your life for you to step on and step over. You know, obstacles are placed there for you to propel you to the next level. So, you know, as I started coaching, you know, I started kind of coaching and kind of moving up. I got an opportunity to work with the Chicago Bears or do an internship with the Chicago Bears. And, you know, I spent a couple of weeks there. You know, I was there about 3 weeks or so. And, you know, during that time, you know, you got to get a chance to meet a lot of people, spend a lot of time doing, you know, just what coaches do. You're coaching on the field, you're watching tape, you know, you're in the personnel meetings, you know, you're just learning a lot. So it was a really good opportunity for me at the time. So when the internship was over, it was time for me to go back and go back to my school and get ready to start our season. So when I started to leave, that's when I get into the fluff. And I really want you guys to hear this, all right? So the fluff is what I call is those sayings like, you know, stay in touch, you know, if you need anything, call, you know, don't hesitate to call. Those are the things that are the fluff, all right? Now, I want you to hear this. I think there are some really, really genuine people out there that really, really mean it when they say, you know, stay in touch. And then there's also some people that say it because it's the nice thing to say. But I personally believe that in a moment, that when people say it, they truly believe it. The problem is that most people, or the majority of people, or some people, I should say, operate outside of that moment. So this one particular coach, I won't call his name, you know, after the season, I saw him in January, late January, down in the Senior Bowl, down in Mobile, Alabama. And saw him, we talked for a little bit, and, you know, probably about 10 minutes, you know. And how he ended the conversation was saying, last thing he said was, stay in touch, you know, give me a call sometime, you know. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think much of it. Yeah, you know, it's just kind of what people say, you know, kind of what people do. It's kind of a nice thing to say. So a month later, about 5 weeks later, I see him again. You know, we talked for about 5 more minutes. And then he says the same thing, stay in touch, give me a call sometime. So, you know, okay, take it for what it is, all right? So one afternoon, probably a couple months later, I decided to take him up on that, all right? So I give him a call, and to my surprise, he answers the phone. He says, hello? And I say, hey, coach, this is Anthony Blevins. He replies, I'm on the golf course. Can I call you back? No big deal. No problem at all, right? The only problem was no call back. But even with that, still not a big problem. I'll be the first to admit, you know, sometimes, you know, you get caught up in stuff and you forget to call people back. And that just happens. That's just called life. You know, growing up, the older people that I grew up with, they had this saying, you know, charges to my head, not my heart. Meaning I'm well-intended, I just forgot, you know. I got old, I forgot, got caught up, or whatever the case may be. So no big deal. So about 2 months later, or actually a couple of weeks later, I called him back, you know, no answer. So I leave a message, you know, no big deal. So I kind of let it go for a little bit. So right before training camp, you know, I give him a call just to kind of wish him good luck on the season, you know, that type of deal. So I give him a call, and this time he answers the phone, all right? Answers the phone, says hello. I said, hey, coach, this is Anthony Blevins. He said, hey, Anthony, I got your message. Don't call me anymore, and hung up the phone. You know, I kind of looked at the phone like what really happened? You know, and I can't sit here and lie to you and say I wasn't hurt, because I was hurt. I was humiliated. I was embarrassed. I mean, all the adjectives that kind of fit in that was me. You know, to be honest with you, you know, I don't promote violence, but if I was anywhere close to him, I probably would have smacked the taste out of his mouth. You know, that was a little bit in my younger days. But, you know, but what I had to realize was that was just a bump in the road. You know, it didn't kill me. It hurt me. It knocked me down, but I had to get back up. I had to keep going, because this little incident was nothing compared to what the doctors told my parents at the beginning of life. You know, someone telling me, you know, don't call him anymore, intentionally not calling me back, that was just part of the journey. You know, the journey is full of ups, it's full of downs. The questions are, in those low moments, in those down moments, does that start you, or does it stop you? Right? That's the question that you got to answer. Does it stop you, or does it start you? You know, it's kind of what's funny to me is I still see this coach from time to time. We play against each other, or coach against each other from time to time, and you know, he says the same thing. You know, we'll talk for a little bit, really nice and cordial, and then he'll say, "Stay in touch, give me a call sometime." And I'm like, "Yeah, right, buddy. Yeah, sure. How about you call me this time?" You know. So as I started kind of, you know, I got another opportunity to actually coach at my alma mater, UAB, back in 2012. And I'm gonna stop the screen share right now. So, you know, I finally got a chance to go back to UAB. You know, it was my home city. I was born and raised in Birmingham. You know, really excited. It seemed like a good situation. But it was really kind of a turning point for me, because what was once important to me wasn't quite as important to me. You know, I just had a daughter. She was in Nashville, and I had to move to Birmingham to take the job at UAB. It was a promotion for me. And to be honest with you, despite going 3-8, football wasn't a problem. Well, let me rephrase that. Football wasn't the only problem. Anytime you go 3-8 in football or in any sport, you got a problem. So, but to be honest with you, it really wasn't the problem. You know, I was at home, I was feeling good. We just had to be better on the field, you know. But I was back at home, and the issue was I never got a chance to see my family. I never got a chance to see my grandparents. My grandparents lived 7 minutes from campus, and I never saw them. The whole time I was there for a whole year, I hardly ever saw them, you know. Like I said, my daughter was in Nashville. You know, I moved to Birmingham, and me and her mom wasn't getting along. I mean, we were arguing. We were just going back and forth. It was just a bad situation. So after the season, I had kind of made my mind up. I was going to get out of football. I was tired. I was frustrated, you know. And plus, the way I saw it, you know, I can make the same amount of money, you know. I can make the same amount of money and get my time back, you know, and enjoy the things that I valued. You know, I wasn't making a whole ton of money, you know. And plus, I was working on my PhD at the time, so it would give me some time to finish my dissertation and complete my PhD, which I completed in 2015. So in the world of fake news and alternative facts, I believe I'm the only NFL coach to hold a PhD at this time. I haven't, you know, checked that, but like I said, it's in the world of fake news and alternative facts. So, but I was just determined. I was going to get out of football. I mean, I was done. I was tired. So I started contacting some of my friends that were working corporate America, you know, trying to find out if their company was hiring or they knew somebody was hiring. I contacted a friend who was a resume writer in Birmingham, so she was going to take all the skills that I had developed in coaching and put them in a corporate style resume. But while that was going on, a friend of mine had just gotten a job at the Arizona Cardinals, and he called me and he said, "Hey, you know, I'm taking this job in Arizona. Would you want to come out here and coach?" And I was like, "Sure." You know, at that point, you know, I just said yes to everything. You know, I had no ego about myself at all. It didn't matter what it was. Like, anybody that wanted me or was interested in me, I was saying yes to everything. So he said, "I don't know what the head coach is going to do about his staff, but I'm going to find out and I'm going to call you. You know, I'll find out and I'm going to try to get you in front of him." All right. So about 10 days later, he calls me and, you know, he called and asked me, could I come down to the Senior Bowl? You know, there we go back at the Senior Bowl again. So I was like, I don't know. You know, I'm on the road recruiting. I still, you know, I don't know what the schedule is going to be like. So, you know, I was like, I'll find out and I'll let you know. So a couple of days passed. I give him a call back and say, hey, you know, I think I'm going to be able to make it. You know, so he's like, fine. But I was like, I can only stay for one day. I'll come down there Tuesday and then I got to leave, you know, Tuesday night. So I go down there Tuesday and he tells me what's going on. He was like, the head coach wants to hire his son for the same position that he's pushing me for. You know, all right. You know, cool, I get it, you know, no big deal, you know, but he said he's getting some pushback from the owner. You know, the owner didn't want any nepotism in the organization. So, you know, he was getting some pushback. So, you know, I kind of remember, you know, thinking to myself, you know, there's no way I'm going to get this position. I mean, I wasn't, you know, it wasn't that I wasn't qualified. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was just like, like, how do you compete with the head coach and his son? You know, the family loyalties. How do you compete with that? You know, if anybody's got any answers, please put it in the chat after, because I love to know. But you know, but at that point, it really wasn't a big deal, to be honest with you. You know, I was in my mind, I was done. You know, I was just kind of buying time to kind of find something to get to the next spot. You know, so I just continued with my plans to get out of football. And then, you know, about 9 days, exactly 9 days passed, and he called me. And he said, "Hey, I think this thing's gonna work out." I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, the owner won't let him hire his son. So, man, I remember being just kind of completely in shock. You know, I was thinking to myself, you know, here's a head coach that can't hire his son. Like who does that? You know, it happens all across the league. I mean, it's just what happens. And so he was like, you know, he went on, we talked a little bit. He was like, "I'm going to find out all the details. I'm going to call you back as soon as I know something." So the next day he called me. All right. When he first called me, I initially didn't answer the phone. I had my daughter with me. I wasn't ready to take the conversation. My daughter was 1 at the time. And I just really wasn't ready to kind of make that decision at that particular point in time. Because in my mind, I was still thinking to myself, like, I'm done. I can't do this, you know? So me and my daughter, a little bit later, we were walking in Walmart, or I'm walking in Walmart and I'm pushing her. And, you know, kind of picking up some stuff before we go home. And so the phone rang again, and it was that feeling that you know who's calling. But I wanted to double check, so I stuck my right hand in my right pocket. And as I did it, I accidentally hit the talk button on the phone. So now I've got to talk to this guy. So, you know, I say hello, you know, and he's on the phone. He's excited, and he's like, "Hey, it's your job if you want it. You know, like, you don't have to worry about anything. It's your job. Do you want the job?" You know. So I kind of paused for a second, and before it even came out of my mouth, he came back and asked me, "Are you all right? Everything okay?" And, you know, I kind of went into, you know, we started talking. I kind of went into the story why I was reluctant to take the job. You know, I didn't want to move that far away from my daughter. My daughter was in Nashville. I'd be going to Phoenix, Arizona. You know, I was like, told him I was working on transition out of football. You know, I didn't know if it was for me anymore. You know, just a lot of things were going on. So we talked in Walmart. We talked about 30 minutes as I'm going up and down the aisles. You know, so we get off the phone. I tell him, you know, I'll make a decision. I'll let you know something in a couple of days or so. So that night, you know, I talked to several people I trusted, you know, in the profession and out of the profession, you know. And I can remember laying in bed, and I remember laying there and just kind of asking God, you know, give me some clarity, you know, give me some answers. And, you know, at that point, at some point I fell asleep. You know, but I remember waking up at around 2 o'clock, actually 2:13 to be exact. And I woke up as calm and as clear as I've been in months. And, you know, that little voice that was inside of me, it was talking to me, and it was saying, "Take the job, take the job." And so I eventually went back to sleep, you know, but I knew at that point I was going to take the position, you know, and to date, that's the best professional decision I've ever made. You know, and what's amazing to me, I was really ready and prepared to turn down an opportunity of a lifetime, you know, opportunity that I really worked for, opportunity that I prepared for, opportunity that I prayed for, you know, so opportunities exist for all of us, but we have to be ready to take advantage of the opportunity, the lifetime of the opportunity. You know, if I didn't take advantage of that opportunity, you know, my life wouldn't be as full. You know, I wouldn't be on this call. Well, I may be on this call, but you guys wouldn't be listening to me. I'd be listening to somebody else. So, you know, that one decision, you know, took me to Arizona, took me to New Jersey, took me to London, gave me the ability to go to Thailand and all different places. That one decision allowed me to meet my wife. That one decision allowed me to finish my PhD. So through all the pain, the tears, the frustration, through all the closed doors, every time somebody's told you no, all the time somebody decided they didn't want to call you back, you know, through all the rejection, you still had the ability to stand up and shine, you know, because it's who you are. It's in your DNA. As a man, woman, and child, it's in your DNA. So one last thing, and then I'm gonna close out. You know, some of you probably remember the movie Coach Carter. Coach Carter is one of my all-time favorite movies. But for those of you that don't know, Coach Carter is a movie based off a true story. It's about a basketball coach in Richmond, California. He's a basketball coach that demanded the best from his student athletes. I mean, he held them to a higher level on the basketball court and off. In the movie, the student athletes that played for him, I won't say they didn't have good role models, but everybody was just concerned about basketball. He was concerned about life. He was concerned about what happened to him after they left Richmond High. He was concerned about getting them out of the community, a community that was crime ridden, a community that didn't have any upside, didn't have any role models in it. All right. So example of what he did, the school board wanted to have or did have a 2.0 GPA requirement to play basketball. Well, to play for Coach Carter, you had to have a 2.5. All right. So during the movie, the team fell below the 2.5 required GPA. So what he did, he had a lockout. He locked them out of basketball. There was to be no basketball practice, no basketball games, nothing involving basketball until they got above that 2.0. So during the lockout, the parents of the players, community members, they started complaining to the school board, to the principal. So the school board, they decided to have a hearing. All right. So in the hearing was to either continue the lockout or decide to end the lockout and go back to basketball. So the school board eventually voted to end the lockout. So Coach Carter, he decided to resign because the school board ended the lockout and in essence also just cut his legs out, from what he was trying to teach these young men. So he goes back to the school, kind of gets his stuff, and he's got his box, and he kind of walks into the gym for like the one last time, to kind of see it and have a really good glimpse of it, So as he walks into the gym, he sees the basketball team, and they're all sitting there, and they're having study hall, So this is the really, to me, the iconic "I gotcha" moment of the film. So he walks into the gym and he starts to address the team, and one of the players says, "Coach, they can end the lockout, but they can't make us play." Then another player says, "So, sir, if you'll excuse us, we got stuff to do." So he's kind of smiles. Coach Carter kind of smiles, kind of turns his back, and then this one player stands up, and he stands up, and he says this. I want to read it to you just to make sure I get it right, but it's really iconic to me. And it says, "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so others won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is in every one of us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others." So as I leave you this evening, always remember you're powerful. You've got the lives of 100 kids, 200 kids in your hands. So remember, you're powerful. And if you're willing to stand up and shine like the sun, those around you have no choice but to reflect like the moon. That's my time. So thank you.
All right, Coach, man, thank you so much. Great job. You guys that have any questions, feel free to type those in the chat right there, and we'll get them for Coach Blev. But Coach, as I listen, some things that really stood out to me that I want to share with our attendees. Number one is integrity, and integrity is defined a lot of different ways. The way that we define it within our program is when your words and your actions align. We heard a story from you where somebody did not have integrity. Their words were one thing, but their actions were something else. And, I just want to encourage all the coaches on the call to really think about, hey, do I say things and not follow through? Do I tell people, yeah, I'll call you back, and never do it? That's one thing that I faced too, Coach Blev, early in my career, and I'm sure we all have. But that's something that I've tried to commit to myself is, if I say it, I'm going to do it. And if I don't think I can do it, I'm just simply not going to say it. And I would much rather somebody say, you know what, I'm not going to be able to call you, or I'm not. Okay, great. At least you said what you meant. And so just want to encourage all you guys and girls on the call in this coaching profession, leadership profession. Make sure your words and your actions align. Number one way to build trust. Number one way to build respect. You simply do what you say you're going to do. And it sounds easy, but as we all know, so many people in this world, they don't do that. So number one was integrity. The number two thing that really stood out to me is adversity. Hearing Coach Blev's just adversity, with that call, and hey, he was hurt. But what I love so much is your persistence, and something we can all learn from. And then the great quote that stuck with me: adversity can do two things. What is it going to do to you? Is it going to stop you, or is it going to start you? That's the question. And I think that's the question we all have to answer, because we will all be hit with adversity. And there's so many people on this call right now, or this Zoom, that they're trying to figure out, what is it I'm going to do? You talked about the vision and the plan and the ingredients on the cake, and they're trying to figure that out. What is my vision? You guys have to have a vision before you can achieve anything in life. You got to see it. Have the vision. Okay. Then think about, okay, what's my plan? What's my recipe? How am I going to slowly start to progress towards the vision? What type of tools do I need? What are the ingredients? A lot of time those tools are relationships, and so be that person that Anthony needed to, say, you know what, no, I'll call you back. And he really did. We can be that person on the other end, and we can make somebody's vision become reality. We saw that in your story. So you didn't mention his name, but you're a friend that said, you know what, I'm going to get your name in front of the head coach. Okay. He was one of your ingredients. He helped you achieve that vision. And so, man, those are great, great things. Just a couple of lessons that I learned from this. But now here we have our question, Coach Blev. This is from a good friend of mine who actually coaches for the Baltimore Ravens. So,
all right. We'll
Scott,
see him in December.
Scott, typically the off-season program serves as some of the best one-on-one time to teach and connect with guys. Being that we were virtual, what did you find as some of the biggest challenges or opportunities that came along with not having the guys in the facility? Were there any that came as a surprise? And appreciate your time.
I think the one thing for me is, honestly, I think it gave us a lot of time to spend one-on-one time, especially with the rookies. It was a lot of one-on-one time, getting to know these guys, asking them, you got a chance to ask them about mom, dad. It was almost like going back to college and just recruiting, finding out all the information again. And even with the older guys, a lot of it was the same way. We were a new staff, or I was a holdover from a new staff that came in. But it, with the new staff coming in, it gave us an opportunity to really kind of foster those relationships. It wasn't about football. It was we did a lot of team building, which was different than probably actually being in the building, where you're in the building and, they got weights, they got meetings, and this is all football. It just became intentional, and I think that's the key, is just being intentional about building relationships, knowing who's in the building, knowing, what they're about, what do they have in their life that might be an issue. So those are the things I think that really, that I think we tried to focus on this all season, to be honest with you. Awesome. I think relationship is we've all, kind of everybody's kind of hit on it. It's building relationships. When you build relationships and, the players trust you, they'll run through a wall for you. And I don't care what level it is. I don't care what type of coaching style you have. When they trust you, they'll do whatever you want.
That's exactly right, Coach. Appreciate that. That trust, again, is huge. And it's built over time, being consistent with your words and your actions. But it can be ruined really, really quickly. You know, something I've seen throughout, my career is really the one time you don't follow through with what you said, it starts to break it down quick, and if you don't really try to restore that and own up to it, say, you know what, hey, I told you I was going to be there at 6 a.m. and I wasn't there. And you know what, that's on me. And I apologize, and I'll make it up to you. I will re-earn that trust, because that's a chip. That's a chip in the trust, and too many chips and it's gone, and you won't get it back. So for all of us that want our players to, you know what, I'll run through that wall for you. Do what you say and say what you do. It is what it is. So, all right, Coach. Well, man, thank you so much again for your time. We're going to stay on track here tonight. We have one final speaker, man, I'm so excited about. But before we get to him, Coach, have a great night. And again, thanks so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys.
All right, Coach Blair. All right, guys. So before we get to our last speaker, just again, any of you guys that have got on late or jumped on late, all these are recorded. So you'll be able to get these from us when the Power Conference is over. So last Thursday's recorded, tonight's recorded, and Thursday will be recorded. And so you'll have access to all these. You can go back again, invite, for $10, you really can't beat this. And all the money is going to help great causes. Even if somebody misses the whole thing, hey, they can register, they can get the videos, and they can be a part of something bigger than themselves. And that's what it's all about. So getting to our speaker here, I want to introduce Coach Michael Chapman. He's the Director of Athletic Performance for Stanford basketball. I've known Coach for a long time. I've had the pleasure of working with Coach at the University of Southern Mississippi. Again, he's somebody that's been really a part of the Power Conference since day one. And much like I said, Greg Adamson was, Coach Chapman, he's been, not only, hey, I'm here, but hey, I'm here to serve. And he's here. I'm here to help other people get better. And I know his heart. I love his heart. I love who he is. And man, I'm so grateful that he would take some time to join us tonight, Coach Chapman. So without further ado, man, take it away. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate who you are as a man and what you stand for. And I'm excited to hear from you tonight.
I appreciate that, Zach, man. That was a nice introduction. I appreciate that. Made me sound a lot better than I actually am. Yeah, but let me share my screen here. Can you see that?
Well, yes, there it is.
All right, awesome. Well, before I get started, like I said, I've been part of the Power Conference since the very beginning, and it's always been a very impactful experience for me, and I've really, really learned a lot here and enjoyed it. So Anthony and Zach, thanks for putting it on, and thanks for having me. Super pumped to get started. So with that being said, I want to this is my presentation, but before I get into it, I want to ask everyone a couple of questions. I want you to think about over your career, whether it be work, whether it be sports, sport related, who's been the most powerful leader to impact you? And then secondly, what was it about them that had such an impact on you? And what I'm going to share on today is the power of transformational leadership. And this is why this is so important to me, and has really been something that's been pressed really hard on me is throughout my career, I've worked with a ton of coaches. I've worked at 10 colleges to date. I've worked with hundreds of athletes. But what I've noticed is some coaches can get more out of people than others. And you wonder, why is that? What are they doing? How is that happening? Why can that person get so much out of them and someone else gets so little from them? And so as I start to delve in and study leadership and team and all these different things, what I learned was these people were transformational leaders. At the time, I had no clue what that was, but it really impressed me what they were doing. And so in my walk as a coach, in my philosophy, what I believe in, and as a administrator or a supervisor, the one thing that's been important to me is that whoever works for me and works with me, they're going to get everything I have from day one. It's no, like, you got to earn it. You get everything I have from day one. As long as you're connected, as long as you're in my circle, you have me. Okay. So as we move on to this next slide, I want to kind of define some things. All right. So if you look at a leadership continuum, right, we're going to focus on transactional and transformational for this particular slide here. But what I want you to think about is, and listen to what I'm saying, is the words. Okay. So transactional sounds just like it means just what it sounds, a transaction. A transformational leader is about change. Okay. So when you look at the source of power for a transactional leader, you're going to look at position and rank. When we look at a transformational leader, what you're going to see is character and competence. Now, the reaction to those leadership styles is going to be different as well. So with the transactional leader, what you're going to see is a hard compliance. With the transformational leaders, you're going to see a commitment. And the leadership focus also varies. So a transactional leader is going to be focused on evaluation, while a transformational leader is going to be focused on development. And the management style varies too. So one saying work with me, transformational, one saying work for me, transactional, right? Now, if you just take a second and look at the words, right? Position, rank, compliance, evaluation, for me. Very, very, very task-oriented, right? Character, competence, commitment, development, with me. That's focused on the personal side, right? And I can tell you this, hands down, your leadership style will drive your culture. And that's every day, all day. So how you lead is how they will follow. So I want to define a couple of things here before we really get cracking on this deal. I want to define transformation, right? To make a thorough or dynamic change in form, appearance, or character of. And I want to focus on thorough, dramatic change. I apologize for that. Dramatic change. Think about this. For those things to happen, you have to really, really, really be invested, right? And you can't really be invested in something that you're not committed to. And you're going to hear these words over and over and over throughout my presentation because they're very important. And they are the foundation of what great teams and great organizations are built on. Leadership. The action of leading a group of people or an organization, the state or position of being a leader. We're all leaders in some form or fashion. You can be the third assistant strength coach on a staff, you can be a GA, and you may go home to a family where you are the leader of that household. So leadership ability is useful in every walk of life, right? And leadership requires someone who has a servant's heart, number one. And number two, it requires a level of ownership. So when you look out at your household, at your team, at your business, at whatever venture that you're in, it's important to understand that the actions that you see are things that you may not have taught intentionally, but unintentionally. because habits are learned, and what you tolerate every day in your program is what you're going to see. Now let's get down to where we're going here, and what the topic is transformational leadership, right? So transformational leadership is a theory of leadership where a leader works with teams to identify needed change, create a vision, to guide the change through inspiration, and executing the change in tandem with committed members of a group. Now that's a long definition and it says a lot, but pretty much what it says, break it down nuts and bolts. You're working with people, providing vision and direction, and everyone on that in that group is together in a lockstep. We're moving together, we're working together. It's about us as a group, and I understand if I'm better, it makes us better. So I want to be my best for the people around me. So when you talk about transformational leadership, you have to first start transformational leaders. And what makes a transformational leader so powerful, right? Why can they do what they do? Why can they accomplish things? Well, the first thing is transformational leaders are usually extremely humble and have a great deal of humility, right? So as a transformational leader, you may be in charge and you may have a way of our thought process on doing something, and someone on your staff comes and says, have you thought about this? The transformational leader doesn't say, go away, I got this. He listens and understands, and he takes wisdom from a multitude of counsel. And he's open to things. When he makes mistakes, he admits to them. And that, by doing that, he shows in a way that he's vulnerable, right? I make mistakes. I don't know it all. I want to learn. That's a contagious process. That's a contagious ideal that now everyone around you becomes the same way, and they feed off of each other. The transformational leader is also a visionary, right? And the way I define visionary for this presentation may not be the Webster's definition, but it's okay for me. So what you'll find is these people can see things in people that they can't see in themselves. And they can see things in teams that they can't see in themselves. And they look at situations where everyone sees a roadblock, they see an opportunity, and their wheels get to moving, and they want to work to get that thing through. Some people want to just skip it and say, oh, I saw it, looks hard, doesn't work. Oh, well, I see what he is, but I don't know about that. I can't invest in that product. The visionary says, I see that. I see where I want to go, and I'm going to take you there. All right. They're extremely adaptable. They're so adaptable that they can mold one message 14 different ways to get to one destination, because they know to get the most out of that one person or each person, they have to craft that message differently, but still have the same underlying principles and tone that are going to drive everything in the right direction. And they're very proactive. They don't wait for things to happen. They don't wait to see what's the hiccup, what hiccup is going to be there, what roadblock is going to be there. They're always looking down the road so they can find a way to smooth the path so that the people that follow them can have a clear path so they can be successful. Because leaders do that. They set their people up to be successful, put them in the best position to be successful. And lastly, and most importantly, they're inspirational. They find a way to inspire you to be better than what you are, or believe in you, or just get something out of you that you just didn't know was in there. And it's amazing how people think of inspiration as this grand speech or this grand gesture. And it's not that way. When I was at Southern Miss, I worked with a kid, and the first day I saw him, I was like, man, you can be a pro. And he looked at me and he goes, huh? No one's ever told me that in my entire career. And I said, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at your anthros. I'm looking at the way you can shoot the ball. I'm telling you, you can be a pro. That kid's a pro right now. He had no desire to try to play basketball after that, but he believed it. To him, that was inspirational. And so that's how it's so important to understand who you're talking to, and don't think because you have this one message and you're talking to a team that everybody's going to get that message, because what touches kid A or employee A may not touch employee B. So you have to be very adaptable. And one of the keys to leadership, in my opinion, that is so overlooked because we live in this age of minute attention. Up, I'm going to swipe this way because now I saw that video. I'm going to swipe up now. I'm going to change the channel. I'm not going to do this. I don't like this. I'm going to quit. And we don't focus on the right things sometimes. But when you're a leader, you meet people where they are. You don't spend your time focused on where you want them to be right now, but you focus your attention about where you want them to go. And a good friend of mine taught me something last week. He said, the power of yet. And that was the first time I had heard that. And it really stuck with me. Because when you're talking to someone and you're talking to a young intern and you say, hey, you can't coach, that just beats that person down. But when you say, hey, you're struggling with this, but you can't coach yet, but we're going to get there. You haven't found your voice yet, but we're going to help you get there. That gives them hope. That inspires them that, hey, there's more coming. Don't quit right now. Keep going. We're going to get there, right? So but how do we get there, right? To get there, you have to do some things. You have to assess. You have to invest, inspire, and elevate those people. And you have to, when you're assessing where they are, you're looking at what are we good at? What are we bad at? How do we respond to adversity? What does our body language say? What are our habits, right? And you see I have we and our bolded. And why is that? Because when you say we and you say our and you say us, you have just invested in them. And usually, and most times when you truly invest in people, they invest back in you. And that mutual investment creates something called commitment. And when you get a group of committed people together and they move a certain direction, you can't stop them. It's a powerful, powerful, powerful thing. I've run a department, I've had staffs, I've run internship programs. Everyone that has ever worked for me or interned for me within their first few months gets something called a PDP. Personal Development Plan. And in that plan, we're going to talk about the things that they need to get better at to achieve their goals. And it doesn't matter what their goal is, right? Even if in my mind, I think it's unattainable, I will never tell them that. And so with that being said, you keep on pushing and you get your process together and you start rolling through it. And as you go through the PDP and you write down what I want to get good at, we check off the date at which you get better at it. And we feel like you've mastered it. And we talk about, okay, well, we mastered this on day 1. All right. We mastered this on day 2. We didn't master this. So let's talk about why we didn't master it. And then look back and come back and attack it later. And those things show the investment in people. And when you invest in people, you get so much more out of them, and you get so much more from you learn so much more in general, right? Because as you watch them learn, you learn and you grow with them. And so investing in people is it's literally everything. Everyone who's spoken tonight has hit on relationships, right? And I want to go a little bit deeper into the relationship process of how you build a relationship. Relationships are not built off of your view of a conversation or your view of how it should be taken. Real relationship is built when I understand who you are, what you're about, and what you value. Because what a phone call may mean something to one person may not mean that same thing to another person. So you may say, hey, yeah, I went to lunch with Johnny. Well, to Johnny, it was just a meal. That's free food. But in your mind, because you spent time with him, it was a relationship. Make sure when you're doing these things and you're investing and you're doing this, that it is truly something that's going to touch them, right? So you have to get to know them and ask them questions. Right? And not just general questions about, hey, like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite team? Blah, blah, blah. Some of the questions I love to ask people to really get down to really knowing who they are. Hey, you can do anything in the world. No pressure. Nobody else matters. Money doesn't matter. What do you do? Usually they'll give some things that are a little bit deeper that you may not have thought you would get. Right? Also on the investment process, relationship building, you have to express and validate that they're valuable and have a lot of meaningfulness to your group or your team. And what you'll find is the simplest way to do that I've learned, and one of my mentors taught me this maybe 9 years ago, is he said, when you're in a weight room, sometimes it's just so powerful for certain kids to just hear someone say their name. Yes, they're on a team of 80, maybe they're on a team of 60 or 15, and they're a kid number 13 or 14, and no one ever says the name. They say, yo, you go over here, you here, you there. And they don't really feel that valuable, but just that one moment when I talk to you and I call your name and I make eye contact with you, you know right now I'm focused on you and I'm invested in you, and this moment is about you. Because just because they're number 14 on the depth chart or number 120 doesn't mean they won't go on one day and run a huge firm or be a speaker or do something that impacts a ton of people. And that moment could help build their confidence for that. And lastly, and most importantly, you want to love them. You have to love them up. And love is not some googly feeling deep down inside to me. Love is an action, and love is a choice. You know, love is saying, hey, I need you to be better right here. Love is honesty. Love is being real. And it's saying, look, hey, I know what happened today isn't your best. I need your best. I'm going to demand that you give me your best, because I know if you give me your best, you can achieve your goals. And if you achieve your goals, you're going to be happy, and we're going to get better, but also the group is going to get better. So everything we do individually in transformational leadership always ties back to the goal for the group. All right. Also, you want to be able to inspire thought and growth, right? You want to empower those doing the right things, praise actions that lead to success, right? Give them clarity, challenge them mentally and physically. Don't make things easy. Life isn't easy, right? My favorite thing about my job is that I get to take young men and young women and help them develop and grow into successful people who can handle different rigors in life, right? And I will challenge them consistently and constantly with everything I can possibly do. I will give them rest times and then change the rest times. And they're like, what are you doing? Hey, that's life. Things don't always go the way you want them. But I can tell you this, the people who can go through life and hit adversity and unexpected adversity and push through and fight through and dig in become successful. You know, and this is a joke that I tell people all the time. They're like, how'd you get to the place you are? Because people place such a high value on logos when they mean absolutely nothing at all. And I said, at the time, I was just too dumb to quit. I just kept going. I didn't know anything. I just wanted to get to the next day. Just kept going up. I messed up that day. Keep going. Just kept going and kept going. And that's how I got there. I just kept on punching, right? And lastly, you want to be able to elevate their performance, right? You want to train them hard. You want to demand their best. And sometimes you have to realize when you demand their best and you think they're slacking, they're giving you what they think their best is. But sometimes you have to take more from them for them to see what they have inside. And that is an art, to be able to take that and still make them feel make them feel a certain type of way. Right? But it's extremely important that through this time when you are so demanding, you never demean them. Demeaning breaks it down. And Zach just said it, you know, your word and your actions and your words lining up are so important. And same thing, when you demean someone and you break them down, you immediately lose their trust and their guard comes back up. And for leadership to be successful, and this is something that I think is powerful, that's really touched me in the last year. For leadership to truly be successful, you have to be vulnerable. And they have to be able to touch you and feel you. Because you can't lead a people that you don't walk with because you can't understand them. Right? Now, once you've gone through this process, you're investing, you're building, you're letting these people grow and get better, you have to take a step back and let them lead a little bit. Because now they're learning. Right? You're providing a variety of different environments and tasks that they have to grow through. And you step back and you watch them lead. And as you watch them lead, you understand, okay, they get it. Or hey, they don't get it at all. But the most gratifying thing as a leader is when you turn your back and you hear that group of girls, that group of guys, that company, people you work with, and they're repeating the things you say, and they're doing things the way you taught them, and you're not around. That is culture. That is when leadership is at its best, when it doesn't have to be handcuffed. What's going on in your program when no one's watching, when they aren't being supervised? That's what championship programs are made of. That's what winners in life are built around. They do the right things when no one's watching, and they yield the benefits when everyone's watching. And I'm going to close it out right here and with this statement. Position is the lowest level of leadership. Anyone can get a title. You stick around in something long enough, you get enough experience, they'll say you're an expert. Are you? Nah. But the pinnacle of leadership is respect. When people follow you because of who you are and what you represent. Leadership is about people. Right? And people who can move people will always be valuable. Can I move you to do something that you never thought you can do before? Can I move you to make changes that you didn't think you could make? Can I move you in a way that you want to work with me because you're watching my actions? So in closing, I want to leave a couple of thoughts for you. The keys to being a transformational leader are this. One, truly value people. You can't fake it. And I've said this time and time again, real recognizes real. You can't fake it ever. Secondly, you have to continually study and grow and always have something to give because if they're growing and they're getting better, you better be growing and getting better too because you have to have something to feed the people who are following you. And lastly, know and relate to what they value so you can create a real relationship with these people. Authenticity is so powerful. Authenticity can be filled. Authenticity can't be faked. And that's been, for me, with my teams and with my way I've done things, how I have gotten through. I just try to be as real as possible. And that's what, if anyone says anything about me and I hear my name, the one thing I always hear connected to it is he's just real. And that's something I'm extremely proud of. But thank you, everyone, so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this. Here's my contact information. Feel free to contact me anytime to talk about anything. I love programming and talking shop. I love leadership and culture development, all those things, but I'm always available. Thank you.
Awesome, Coach Chapman. I appreciate that. Great job. And exactly as you said, man, you're as real as it gets. And I really appreciate that, man. You did a great job tonight. We'll go into some questions, guys. If you have questions for Coach Chapman, please type those in the box. Some things, Coach, that stood out to me, and I was taking notes as fast as I can. So transformational leadership and transactional leadership, man, so powerful. We all should have that desire to transform lives. It should never be about a transaction. I do this for you so you can make me, look like this, or you do this for me. A big thing that you said is see things in others they can't really see in themselves. And if anybody was on Thursday night's Zoom, you heard Gary Kramer talk about packing parachutes. You heard Gary Kramer say almost the exact same thing. His 7th grade soccer coach came up to him and said, you know what, you can be something special. And he had been, cut from other teams. He was a overweight kid, but that's all he needed. That's all he needed to light the fire, to go play college soccer, to go and do unbelievable things. And now he's impacted thousands of lives. So that's something I want to continue to do personally. I want to challenge coaches on this Zoom to do that. Find that person. Who do you coach that they don't think highly of themselves, but you see something that they don't, and then you can tell them that. All right, so questions are coming in. We have Tanner. He says, Coach Chapman, what have been the largest differences in your leadership style between programs? For example, Stanford versus Southern Miss.
To be honest, I don't change. I am very consistent with who I am. I'm very consistent with my message. The one thing that's a little bit different here at Stanford is the kids at Stanford are high achievers. Not saying the kids at Southern Miss aren't, but Stanford just has a different level of academic prowess to it. And what happens is a lot of kids here have never really experienced failure because they've been successful their whole life to make it here. And so what I do try to do is assess who I'm dealing with. And so while the kids at Southern Miss may have needed more pumping up to really build their confidence, the kids at Stanford sometimes need a little bit more reality. And so, hey, like I understand that you got here and you're doing great, but life is going to bring some challenges your way. And just saying you're Stanford isn't going to wipe those challenges away. You have to have some grit, some toughness, something to you to make it through. And so I try to provide what that particular group needs instead of just kind of saying, we're going to do all this one way every time I go to a place. Every place I've been, the principles have stayed the same. My methods have changed.
Great response, Coach. Great response. Man, how powerful is the power of yet? The power of yet. Something I've not really thought about, but it really goes right into the PDP, the personal development plan. I think that's so awesome that you do that with your athletes. You get them and you say, hey, look, we're not here yet, but here's the path. And again, it goes into what Coach Blevins said. Here's the vision. Here's what I believe you can be. Here's how we do it. And you're not there yet, but yet means I can get there. And I love, Coach, how you say, you know what? You will never tell them, okay, that you don't believe it. Hey, you know what? You're a walk-on and you want to go to the NBA, but you're 5'10", okay? I'm never going to say that you can't do it, regardless if I think that's reality or not. Yeah. Because really, as coaches, who are we? You know, we have no clue what the future holds. We gotta build these young athletes up into believing, you know what? If I want something, I'm going to go get it. And you know what? If I fall short, the lessons that I learned along the way will take me into really even greater things that I just didn't know about at the time. But because God's got a perfect plan for every single one of us, and the path to find that plan, sometimes, you know, we have to figure things out through adversity. But learning through those things are great. So, man, that was awesome. And then calling them by name, you know, calling them by name, I think it's powerful. You know, hey, Michael, hey, Gary, hey, Tanner, hey, Chris. It says you matter.
Yeah. I see you.
Matter.
Yeah.
You know, I know who you are. Mm-hmm. Not just, hey, man, come on. And then the other thing that, man, that has really stuck out to me is we and us is a lot different than them. You know, we've all been around coaches when they're referring to their athletes and they say, man, they were just lazy today. Well, the reality is we were lazy. Exactly. Because you're the leader. Yeah. And I think that's important for us to understand. We should never say they, because when we say they, we're talking about ourselves. Right. Everything is we. And if somebody makes a mistake, somebody on my staff makes a mistake and the head coach says, hey, Zach, you know, so-and-so, he's got to get better. You know what, coach, that's my fault. I didn't lead him well enough. You know, that's not him, that's us. That's we. And so that was something that I thought was very impactful as well. Let's see, any more questions? Okay, we got one here. Coach Chapman, can you talk about the transformational leaders that have impacted your current philosophy?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I mean, give me a second to put that together. My mom's probably the biggest one. I was not an easy child. And she was able to get stuff out of me, man. Like when I look at where I am right now, there is no way humanly possible I'm here without that woman. Because I didn't want to do anything. And she found a way to get through to me. And so she's been one. Coach Gail Hatch has been one to me, like a mentor. I mean, when I first started, I knew nothing but what he poured in my head. And the interesting thing is what he taught me more than any of the techniques and that stuff is he taught me the art of consistency. Every day he was the exact same. And every day he made sure I got better. And when I messed up, he didn't just pass by and say, oh, I'll go to the next guy. He spent time to get me better. And hey, let me talk to you about this. Let me learn about you. Let me invest in you. Let me teach you about finances when you actually get a job. What do you do with your money? And he really taught me a lot of stuff and really, really transformed my thought process and really my opinion of myself, because he helped me gain some confidence in that process.
Awesome, Coach. Awesome. Well, we're going to be respectful of everybody's time. My wife says 59. So thanks, Coach, man. Great night. Guys, Thursday night, all right, will be the last night of Power Conference 2020. Just wanted to go over that lineup. We have Nicodemus Christopher. We've got Lauren Landau, who is the head strength coach for the Denver Broncos. Nicodemus leads Mizzou basketball. We've got Goody Goodlow, who you guys may have met last Thursday night. Goody's a best-selling author and a national speaker. We have Sonia Woods, who's the director of Olympic sports at Coastal Carolina. And then we have Aaron Campman. Aaron Campman is a former NFL player. He now is the CEO of a group called Align. Align is very, very similar to what the Power Conference is all about. But if you guys have really enjoyed this conference, Align is basically how to take it one step further. And Align works with coaches, works with leaders, works with CEOs to really, really dig down and figure out, hey, the why and the vision and putting together those ingredients and those recipes to make your vision become a reality. So excited to hear about Align as well. Have a great night. It's such a blessing to be able to share and meet with you guys. And again, thanks to all of our sponsors, all of our speakers, everybody. I'm so gracious for you guys sharing. I'm gracious for you guys logging on. And again, at the end of the day, man, we're just trying to impact lives of athletes, of people around us. And we have that power. We have the power to do it. We also have the power not to do it. So let's be intentional as we go through our day tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. Look forward to seeing you guys back Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night, guys.